I get the pleasure of calling tonight's meeting to order, as this is the official time period where we will elect officials, our president, vice president, et cetera. But it is now 6 o'clock, so I'll call this meeting to order. Just a quick reminder, if you are here for public comment, we've asked that you sign up by our principals. There's cards to sign up, so please do so. We'll use that as far as timing out how long the public comment will be. So please sign up in advance for public comment. With that, I'll ask anyone is able to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business is for me to not have to do this business. So I would like to start the executive election of board officers and appointments by beginning the process and a call for nominations for the office of school board president.
I would like to nominate Sarah McCutcheon for school board president.
I'll second.
Motioned by Karen, seconded by Yvonne. Any additional nominations? Any additional nominations? Any additional nominations? Hearing none, I move to close nominations and call a ballot for Sarah McCutcheon for board president, requiring a voice vote. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm happy to get rid of this. Congratulations, Sam.
Yeah, look at you.
Way more efficient.
Thank you, everybody. So I will take nominations for the school board vice president.
I'd like to nominate Stephanie Trigstead for school board vice president.
I'll second that.
Any further nominations? Any further nominations? Any further nominations? Hearing none, I will do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Stephanie. I will take nominations for a school board clerk.
I'd like to nominate Kirsten Sierra.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? I'll cast a unanimous ballot for Kirsten. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Kirsten. I will now take a motion for the office of school board treasurer.
I will nominate Justin Myers for school board treasurer.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is a unanimous ballot for Justin. Thank you, Justin. And now we need a motion for the board's legal counsel for the 25-26 school year.
Secretary first.
Oh, that's very important, sorry. Can I have a nomination for the school board secretary, please?
I'll nominate Heidi Belahov. I never know how to say her name.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is a unanimous ballot for Heidi. Thank you, Heidi. Now we will do a motion for the board's legal counsel for the 25-26 school year.
I will nominate Beulah and Vetter for board's legal counsel.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will entertain a motion for the board's CISA 1 delegate for the 25-26 school year.
I will nominate Yvonne Klotz.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion.
Yes.
And then we need a motion for the WASB delegate for the 25-26 school year.
I'll nominate Yvonne Klotz for that.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And do we have a motion for an alternate WSB delegate for 25-26?
I would like to nominate Stephanie Trigstead, please.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have our board committee appointments. I had sent out an email this week asking board members if they wish to change any committee assignments, and everyone was satisfied with where they were, and nobody asked to change. So our Building and Grounds Committee will remain Yvonne, Karen, Justin, and Brian. Curriculum will remain Kirsten, Yvonne, Nicole, and Stephanie. Finance and Human Resources, Justin, Brian, Karen, and Elisa. Policy will be Stephanie, Elisa, Kirsten, and Nicole. And then we do have our board-wide, our district-wide committees. We don't need to approve those tonight, other than to say that if you want to remain on those, let me know, and if you want to switch them, we can do that, but I also got no reply back that anybody wanted to switch their district-wide committees. So we will take a motion to approve the board committees as I just put forward.
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Do we have a student council rep tonight? Not seeing one. We will move on to the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple things as it relates to the superintendent's report. Typically, we spend a little time celebrating what is that next month's recognition and national recognition, as well as our district and buildings. Next month, to start the month, May 5th through the 9th, is National Teacher Appreciation Week. I reached out to our principals to say, how are we celebrating? I am slightly biased, and I will attend one building maybe more than the others. I'm excited about Lincoln's Back to the 80s themed. During the week, they'll have some dress-up days, food, coffee trucks. Really, the common thread along all of this is that our parent groups are truly supportive of our teachers and offering lots of opportunities to celebrate them. Saukville's parent group is offering a catered lunch with treats throughout the week. Dunwoody's game show theme throughout the year is about having fun in those game show topics. They have something planned each day, from coffee, catered lunch, extra snacks, and opportunities to win prizes. And the student council is getting involved with a treat cart. I guess I could say that Thomas Jefferson Middle School is offering a homemade maple syrup lattes made by Mr. DeBaker himself from, I believe, his own syrup. So thanks to Mr. DeBaker for giving up some of that valuable syrup. I will definitely stop by to try those. Admin provided lunch one day, as well as a parent group. And then our high school student council is getting involved from the students' perspective for Teacher Appreciation Week, as well as coffee in the morning. Parent group provided lunches, and then our admin team also writes notes. So certainly happy Teacher Appreciation Week. That's something that is celebrated across all districts in the United States for the most part. I would say, I think one thing unique to us is we also celebrate American Education Week in November. So really those 2 weeks are kind of split between the school year. So thank you to all of our teachers and all that they do. Next one is just a quick legislative advocacy work update. Beginning in November, after the election, I had reached out to all of our representatives across Saukville and Port Washington for a chance to meet with them and talk about the facilities as well as the financial needs of our district. So just as an outline, I had a chance to meet with Representative Paul Malatik in November to discuss our budget needs. In December, I met with Senator Fayen to discuss those needs and give a tour of Saukville Elementary. I reached out a couple times to Representative Robert Brooks to schedule a meeting. He is our representative in Saukville. I really had a great opportunity in February when CISA 6 director, as well as our mayor, Ted Knightsky, hosted Governor Evers, and I had a chance to speak with Governor Evers in February at Javadoc and discuss our budget needs at that point. And then most recently this month, I had a chance to meet with Senator Havish-Sinkin to discuss our needs. And finally, a huge shout out to Yvonne and Stephanie for waiting 8 hours to give 2 minutes of speech to the Joint Finance Committee about the needs of our district. So they were there at State Park for, again, 8 hours waiting to have their 2 minutes to talk about our budget needs. So huge shout out to those board members, huge shout out to the advocacy work as we continue to meander through what will be our biennial budget and what schools will have for spending. So. Also, congratulations, huge shout out to the Ozaki Press. I wanted to highlight, we are fortunate to have a newspaper that does really outstanding job for sports writing, pictures. I think back to my hometown newspaper, the Cooley News in West Salem, Wisconsin. I actually, as a journalist student in that class, wrote the JV and varsity football stories. And I can say that was fun and great, but the writing that we get from the Ozaki Press is certainly outstanding, and it has won an award. So Bill is here tonight, so shout out to you for your work. It is certainly a great opportunity, and the work that you did through the referendum and getting information out there is very much appreciated. So shout out to the Ozaki Press. We are lucky to have them. And speaking of the referendum, this is our first meeting since passing that referendum on April 1st. A huge shout out to the community for all of the support. It is an exciting time as we think about the future of our district, both from the facility standpoint and right-sizing all of our buildings to make sure that they are equipped for years to come, as well as the excitement of building a brand new elementary in Saukville. On tonight's agenda, we are approving our architectural and construction manager, growth design, and VGS. So we're excited about that step that took place immediately after the referendum. And we're continuing to work through the next steps of a traffic study for the new site in Saukville, still working through that process. We have a meeting with the town of Saukville, the village of Saukville, and our team tomorrow. And then finally, next week is an important meeting with Baird. We have our bond rating call with Baird. We're going to discuss our current budget, discuss our fund balance, and determine our credit score as it relates to that rating. It'll be a timely discussion as we think about what we're doing with our budget to make sure that the 24-25 school year, we have maintained a balanced budget and are working hard to set forth a balanced budget for 25-26. Part of that bond rating is really asking us, what are we doing to be good fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars? So those are the things that are on the cusp, and knowing that getting a good interest rate can have a significant impact as it relates to long-term borrowing from a bond standpoint. So that concludes my superintendent's report, unless there's any questions.
Michael, could you just speak to what would happen if we weren't maintaining a balanced budget? What would happen to especially the bond rating impact? And maybe Mel.
Yeah, so there's different ratings as it relates to the bond rating, AAA, AA, and what that does is equate to an interest rate as you think about taking out a loan for a car or for a home. The more fiscally sound, the more fund balance, the more savings account we have, a bank is more apt to give us a better rate. Yesterday, my neighbor and his 18-year-old son pulled into their driveway, and he bought a brand new car. And I said to him, congratulations. And he said, no, congratulate my dad for helping me. And his comment in speaking with his dad, that 18-year-old would have got a 26% interest rate on that car had his dad not co-signed with him to get a 6%. And so that small car loan is a similar factor as what we talk about for the finances for this bond, that having a good fiscal sound system in place gives us a better rate that, a quarter point of interest could be millions of dollars over that 21-year bond. So this is an important call, and we're excited to look at what that does for our district moving forward.
Thanks.
Other questions on the superintendent's report? Okay.
And I'm up next. I prepared this in the event that I would be board president again. I prepared these words and thanked my fellow board members for voting me as your president again. Thank you for your continued faith in me, and I'm looking forward to our continued work for the good of our students and our entire learning community. For those of you in the community who want to stay informed, we encourage you to follow board and district business. The board meets in open session. usually the fourth Monday of every month. The public is always welcome to attend these meetings. They change occasionally for holidays, but otherwise you can count on them being the fourth Monday of the month. Meeting notices are posted on our district website, our Facebook pages, in paper form on our district buildings they are posted. And if you're unable to attend a meeting in person, you can always view past sessions by searching PWSSD school board meetings on the YouTube channel. They stay on there. And new this year, the district has launched a quarterly print newsletter called The Beacon that's mailed to your homes, where we share points of pride to keep our community members informed. Staying connected helps us work together in support of our students and schools. I'd like to take this opportunity to look back over the past year and talk a little bit about our future. 1 year ago this month, the Board of Education had the privilege of selecting our new superintendent, Dr. Michael McMahon. We are incredibly fortunate that the timing and the circumstances brought us such an outstanding leader who will guide our district for years to come. Dr. McMahon has embraced the importance of listening and learning from all corners of our community. From the very start, he actively sought feedback, meeting with over 100 community members in his first 100 days as our superintendent. He had, in addition, distributed surveys to both staff and community. His commitment to transparency and gathering meaningful input has provided the board with valuable insights into the needs of all of our stakeholders. These efforts have played a vital role in helping us make thoughtful, informed decisions that reflect the best interest of all of us. In less than 1 year, Dr. McMahon has brought a fresh perspective to every aspect of our district with thoughtful analysis and data-driven approaches. He has equipped the board with clear, accurate information, empowering us to make well-informed decisions that truly benefit all of our students. The depth and thoughtfulness of this analysis is a leadership strength of Dr. McMahon's, and this strength is already making a positive impact on our district and laying a strong foundation for our future. That future planning came in August with our first board administrator team retreat, a full day of grounding the board in past and future work. Dr. McMahon led the conversation to set the direction for the entire district, focusing on high expectations and goal setting so that we as a team could affect the operations of this district, supply resources, and properly assign and retain staff, all with the goal of what is best for our learners. This year also included comprehensive audits of all district systems and facilities. While an external audit is conducted annually, as required by state statute, this year we went a lot further with an extensive internal audit that examined every aspect of our district. That included all of our physical spaces inside and out, enrollment, operating systems, staffing across all levels and roles, curriculum, consumables, communication, policies, benefits, compensation, retirement plans, and more. As a result of these thorough reviews, key areas of growth were identified and strategic priorities are being established to guide our path forward. One key focus has been a comprehensive academic data review under the leadership of our new curriculum director and our new superintendent. This analysis revealed areas in need of improvement, most notably our math curriculum and performance, and highlighted the need for a more cohesive math curriculum. In response, our dedicated staff invested countless hours evaluating new instructional materials, resulting in a recent adoption of our new math curriculum. This updated approach is designed to address our lagging math scores and equip our educators with an enhanced resource within a more aligned and effective framework. Additionally, the board and administration have taken on the important work of addressing inequities by strengthening our systems and policies. Over the past several months, we've conducted a full review of every district policy. By July, we will have a completely fully updated policy manual that ensures compliance with state and federal law. The policy manual is accessible online on the district website, supporting transparency and accountability. One of the most immediate and critical needs identified through a multi-year process by the Operations Committee was the replacement of Saukville Elementary School, along with several maintenance needs across all of our district facilities. In response, Dr. McMahon led 20 community informational sessions and informational and listening sessions in the months leading up to the April referendum, ensuring residents had the information and understanding necessary to make an informed decision. We are deeply grateful to our communities for their resounding support of our referendum. Your overwhelming endorsement clearly shows that you value the children of this district, prioritizing their safety and the quality of their learning environment. Thank you for investing in the future of our students and schools. Looking ahead, as we've shared in previous discussions, the district is facing a projected $1.2 million budget deficit for the upcoming year. This did not come as a surprise. Our administration, even prior to Dr. McMahon's tenure, had informed us of the financial challenges ahead. Since then, there's been ongoing conversation and careful planning to identify ways to achieve a balanced budget. Cost-saving measures have been identified across multiple areas, from closing our school buildings on Fridays during the summer to reduce utility costs, to revising health insurance plans, and even monitoring operational expenses all the way down to our use of color copies. Once again, I want to emphasize the value of a comprehensive audits conducted across the district by both internal and external sources. With approximately 83 to 84% of our budget allocated to salaries and benefits, it is both reasonable and necessary to conduct a thorough audit of staffing in relation to enrollment and district operations. Those staffing audits included teachers, administrative assistants, non-coded staff, administrators, educational assistants, custodial staff, and extra part-time support. All resulting staff reductions were not reactionary decisions. They were informed by data and made after significant reflection and discussion. We have not been cutting staff salaries or laying off teachers in the past. Our last staff layoff was in 2014. Decisions regarding staffing are taken very seriously by this board. We deeply value every member of our staff and to continue to advocate at the state level for the much-needed changes to the funding formulas that have consistently fallen behind meeting our district's needs. And I just want to draw attention again to that particular slide and what we as an administration and as a board have done at the legislative level to let them know our particular story of our district and our needs. And Michael, if you could go to slide 2. And that, I'm not going to read this all to you, but if the needs of our district and how state funding has fallen behind our needs and the things that we take into account are in this slide. But if you could just look under the state revenues, that our general school district revenue per pupil lag inflation by more than $3,300 since 2009. I'm truly grateful to the community members who attended informational sessions in the months leading up to the April referendum. These sessions offered valuable insights into the many factors considered in both past and present decisions and our planning for the future. While I would love for everyone in this room to have seen the full presentation, in the interest of time, I'll be highlighting just a few key slides that directly address some of the questions and concerns that we have been hearing from this community. In slide number 3, we have had many people in the community ask whether we reflected on why we were losing students through open enrollment, and the answer is yes, we absolutely do. Whenever possible, we gather feedback from families who choose to share why they make decisions to enroll their children elsewhere. While the reasons vary, including parents working in other communities, child care availability, state report card data, sometimes athletics, one of the most common concerns we've heard is related to Saukville Elementary and the open concept design that has impacted our students' learners. This slide breaks down the enrollment losses at all of our elementary schools. And as you can see, Saukville Elementary accounts for a significantly higher number of students leaving compared to the other 2 schools. If you can go to slide 4. Those students, every student that leaves our district represents, through open enrollment, represents funding that leaves with them. Our goal is to bring back our young learners, bring them back home by providing a safe, modern learning environment, something that parents have told us they are seeking when they go to neighboring districts through open enrollment. I think I want to go to slide 6. Oh, can you just go back? I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that is district-wide money that is leaving. That affects, while those children are leaving Saukville Elementary, if we could keep those children through their graduation year, that is $9.2 million that will come back into our district. Think of what we could do with that kind of money.
Because it's based on a per pupil.
Yes.
Dollars per pupil.
Yes. I think it's slide 6. As part of our open enrollment review, we've also developed process to regularly assess, that is not the right slide.
This one?
Yes, thank you. We have developed a process to regularly assess district enrollment trends and adjust staffing accordingly to align with increases or decreases in student numbers. While we are examining why some PWSSD families are choosing nearby districts, it's equally important to consider their class sizes. The staffing changes currently being proposed through attrition and non-renewals will result in some grade levels experiencing increases in class sizes, while others will see decreases. So that is going 2024, 25, and comparing them to what we're looking for in 25, 26. Overall, these adjustments will help us narrow the range of class size across all grade levels in the district. It's important to note in the referendum presentation, all through that although we value small class sizes, students such as 12 to 13 students, the state does not provide us additional funding based on our preferences. Do we have the alligator mouth? So this represents FTEs that continue to rise, and that represents our declining enrollment in the orange, and our FTEs are in the blue. The district has also communicated clearly and frequently about the fact that both Thomas Jefferson Middle School, can you put up that slide from the referendum presentation, and the Aquatic Center will need to be addressed in the coming years. When we surveyed the community, it became clear that pursuing projects for both Saukville and TJ simultaneously would not have the needed support. We carefully considered the financial landscape, including the recent property tax increases related to the new safety building and the rising water rates in the city of Port Washington, and ultimately determined that asking taxpayers to take on both projects would be too great a burden on that community within our district. I'd also like to take a moment to clarify some questions and concerns we've had regarding the type of referendum that was passed and how those funds can be used. This was a capital or building referendum, not an operational referendum. This means that state law requires the approved referendum dollars can only be used for construction of the new Saukville Elementary and for essential updates to other district facilities. This administration and board are committed to a responsible and sustainable approach. We are actively working toward a fully funded 10-year maintenance plan to avoid needing to return to our taxpayers for basic infrastructure needs like roofs, parking lots, windows, doors, and mechanical system. We intend to fund this plan through a combination of operating funds and Fund 46, ensuring responsible financial stewardship while maintaining safe, effective, and supporting learning environments for all of our students. The April 1st, 2025 referendum was a new beginning, one that allows us to budget more effectively for long-term facility needs. While ongoing challenges remain under current state funding model, we remain committed to being fiscally responsible and transparent in our planning and stewardship. I think I want slide 8 now. Concerns have been raised about the timing of the referendum and the announcement of staff reductions. The term right sizing has been used and reported on at multiple board meetings, including as early as October of 2024, December 2024, and through an Ozaukee County article on January 2nd, 2025. We have provided data about our declining enrollment on several occasions. It is important to note that while small class sizes are often seen as a strength and identified as a preference, our data does not show a direct correlation between smaller class sizes and significantly improved student success. In Wisconsin, preliminary notices of non-renewal for teachers must be provided on or before April 30th of the school year in which the teacher holds a contract. This is a statutory deadline for notifying teacher that their contract is being considered for non-renewal, with final notices of contract non-renewal being May 15th. Those dates and dates of statewide elections are not controlled by this board. We take all staffing changes seriously and make those decisions with great care. This board offered early retirement packages to employees that qualified during a December 16th board meeting in the hopes that some non-renewals could be handled through attrition. Staffing assignments and reductions remain fluid. In the last couple of weeks, there were more adjustments, and we anticipate there could be more before the May 15th deadline. Slide 9, please. We've heard concerns in the community regarding the number of administrative positions and compensation in our district compared to neighboring districts or those of a similar size. Transparency is important, so let me provide some clarity. We currently have 3 elementary schools, each led by 1 principal, none of which have assistant principals. Our middle school and high school each have a principal and 2 assistant principals. The second assistant principal at the middle school was added in January of 2019 to help address behavioral needs, among other responsibilities. At the district office level, we operate with a very lean administrative team consisting of just 5 roles: a superintendent, a director of business services, a director of student services, a director of operations, and a director of curriculum instruction. These are standard roles in any district of our size, and not having them would be irresponsible given the scope and complexity of running a modern-day school district. I also want to acknowledge the less than 10 staff members that I've heard from that the board has received emails from, and I apologize for not getting to you timely, but we will, between Michael and I, we will be addressing those emails in the next coming weeks. Our district has a very bright future. On behalf of this entire board, I want to express our deepest appreciation to our hardworking and dedicated staff. You are the core of this district, and your efforts make us who we are. There may be critics and those who are dissatisfied. In many cases, I believe they haven't yet had the opportunity to truly understand the depth of our commitment to our students and the work happening here every day across all of our school buildings. I welcome ideas on how we can bridge that gap, how we can better share our story and help our community see the dedication, care, and passion that define our district. To my fellow board members, thank you again for the opportunity to serve you this coming year.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome. Thank you. Also, board members, you see the upcoming dates for our next couple of months are in your board packet. And now we move on to more exciting news. Dunwoody.
We're going to shift the table. I think we can just one. Okay, we kind of talked about it, so I think we're going to be okay. Perfect. Oh, there we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Elise Voskel, and I'm the proud principal of Dunwoody Elementary School. I have some helpers with me today to feature UFly, which is a new reading intervention that our interventionists, our strategists, and our classroom teachers have been using, both small group and whole group. UFly is the University of Florida Literacy Institute that focuses on the foundations of reading. That comes with some of the shifts that Act 20 has brought to our state. Today, I want to welcome Missy White. She is one of our teaching and learning strategists that works primarily with literacy. And then I have 3 wonderful 3rd graders here with me today, Tate, Ashlyn, and Roland. And they are here to be our students in addition to our board and administrators here who will be joining us in their participation of Lesson 78 of UFly. Where do you want this to be? Oh, I'm going to share my screen.
All right, while Elise is getting that up, I'll just give you like a brief background about UFLY. Stands for University of Florida Literacy Institute, and they are one of like the leading institutes in reading research. When I got my master's back in like 2007, I used a lot of their resources. They had a lot of like cutting edge interventions that they posted on their website, so we've been using a lot of their resources for a long time. But most recently, they came out with this intervention system, and it was designed for teachers, by teachers, and with teachers. They're non-for-profit, so those are some of the best programs in my experience that I've used for reading interventions. Yes, so I'm gonna let my 3 third graders introduce themselves.
I'm Roland.
Yep. Next.
I'm Ashlyn. I'm
Ash-
Tate.
Ashlyn, so we've got Roland, Ashlyn, and Tate. And we meet every day after lunch, which is usually kind of like a sluggish time of the day, but we make it fun. And what we are going to do today is we are going to do just a brief portion. Usually the lessons are 2 days, and each one takes about a half hour. They go in 2 different parts. And so just for time purposes, we're just going to do a very short portion, a very, like the review section of the lesson. And then we're gonna invite you guys to play along too and see if you guys, the board members are smarter than our 3rd graders too. All right, so if we get started. Okay, we're gonna start with some phoneme awareness. So I'm going to sound out the word, you guys are just gonna tell me what the word is. Or,
Form.
or,
North.
or,
Short.
or,
Storm.
Good, now I'm gonna say the word, and I need you guys to get your fingers ready, and I'm gonna have you finger spell it. Ready? Born.
Or.
Okay. Cord.
Or.
Chore.
Or.
Dorm.
Or.
Dorm.
Or.
There you go, good. All right, now you guys can view the screens. So what's really nice is the program comes with these slides that we use daily. And this is what we call our visual drill. So this is just a review. It works on automaticity of these sounds. So the kids have already learned these letters and sounds. So this is just a review. Usually just goes very quickly. You just go along. All right, you guys want to look and just say the sounds that they make? Okay, next.
R.
Next.
Yeah.
And.
E. Or I.
Okay, yeah, and E and I. Next.
J.
Next.
G.
And.
J. Ed.
And.
D.
And. Good. And.
A.
And.
A. I.
And.
I.
And.
O.
Let's do that one again. What sound does this one make? Short sound? Long sound.
O.
Okay. And.
E.
Okay, we can stop right here if you want. All right, next, and this is where we're going to invite you guys to play along. I'm going to say the sound, and then you guys are going to write along with our 3rd graders. You guys are going to write all the different ways to spell that sound, because some of them have more than one. Okay, and the hint is if the box is bigger, that it means there's more than one way to spell that sound. Okay? Yeah, so see how you do. All right, where's my whiteboard? All right, first. Yep, I will say the sound. You write how to spell that sound. And then I'll write it up here. You can check your answers. Yes. Should have R. Okay, next is R. Got a and next will be R. So R controlled vowel should have AR, the pirate sound, R. Next, write 2 ways to make E, the long E sound. Should have E and Y. Y makes E at the end of a word, like in baby. Did you get that one? All right.
What about the, why are vowel
So, good question. So, it's a progression. So, it's a systematic sequential program. So, it is going over the sounds that we've learned thus far.
Okay.
So, these guys, we're actually pretty far ahead than lesson 78. So, even with that could be ER, IR, UR. There are multiple ways to make it. But according to the program, we haven't learned it yet, even though sometimes, so that's why we're just doing the ones that we've learned thus far in the program.
And these would be
That's
the
how
ones
it's
that they
designed.
practice ahead of.
Yep, those are all, we always start with review. So those are all of the sounds that we have learned thus far, like I said, in the program. So yes, there could be more ways to make that, we just technically haven't learned it yet, or it hasn't been in the program. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, next, I, write 2 ways to make I. Should have I and Y. And then we'll do one more last J. 3 ways to spell J. 3 ways. Tate, I'll let you tell them the answer on this one. What are the 3 ways?
G, J, and D, G, E.
Wait, say again?
G, J, and D, G, E.
All right. And then the next part of our lesson, we do what's called a blending review. So I'm going to take these, and you guys can take the trays. And these trays were produced and manufactured by our staff employees. Our reading specialist, Melissa Yankee, kind of came up with the design. And then we got the magnets printed and the baseboards printed, and Sarah helped buy the trays. And so all of our classrooms, K through 3, have a class set of these trays, which is really nice. All right, so go ahead and we'll start with the word my. Can you spell my? So this is working on segmenting, blending, and then the manipulation of sounds, changing out sounds to make new sounds, and it usually goes pretty quick. All right, change my to by. Change by to be.
And each board is color-coded with the vowels, the consonants, the blends, the digraphs, so they're familiar with the colors that go with
Yeah, I
it
can
too.
pass it around. All right, add a T to the end and tell me what word that spells. What word does that spell?
Bet.
Nice and loud? All right, can you guys show them how you sound it out and blend it with your finger?
Bet.
Good, now touch each sound and blend it on the tray.
Bet.
Good, now change E to I and tell me what word that makes.
Bet.
What word does that spell?
Bet.
Good, now add an E to the end and tell me what that word is.
Bite. Bite.
Good. Takes much, they're 3rd grade, so they go very quickly, but I will tell you in kindergarten and 1st grade, it takes a very long time because they have to actually find where the letter is in the alphabet. So it goes a little bit slower. So like I said, this is just the very first part of the lesson. We also go into high frequency words, then we go into reading and writing sentences, and then we do a connecting text, so they'll get a decodable story that has, the skill for the week is OR, that will have lots of OR words in it without a picture, and then they have to draw a picture to go with it. So it's a really great program, and we've seen a lot of success with it this year. This is our first year using it, especially in our, Elise will show you the data in just a moment of the amount of students that we've had meet their goals, particularly in second grade. So we just wanted to share that success with you guys. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just the kids and their teacher.
Thank you so much. That is so impressive, and that was very brave of you to come and do that in front of all these people. But you actually probably did a little better on your test than I did. So I am very impressed. You think that's funny. I am very, very impressed with all of you. But thank you so much, and thank you to your parents for bringing you here tonight and sharing, because this is our very, very favorite part of board meetings, is when we get to see what you are doing and what your teachers are helping you do. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
All right, you guys. Cheese. Yeah, thanks. Nice work. Thanks so much.
And Elise, we look forward to hearing about your skip work.
This has been fun watching through different classroom observations too. Missy White and Tina Zara did some professional development for our entire staff, our classroom teachers and EAs, on how to facilitate this, both small group and whole group. So I've even seen in the classroom teachers facilitating it whole group, different portions of it, and all the students participating. So it was really cool. They modeled similarly to what you just saw, a lesson, and the teachers followed along, and were then able to, like I said, implement it with their own classrooms. All right, so thank you again, third graders. Thank you, Missy White, for your work on that. I'm really proud of you all. All right, I am here with a skip update. Our school improvement plan, I have all hands on deck on our cover presentation photo here, because that's our theme this year. We're ending, our second year is the theme, but it's relatable to a lot of what I will be talking about today. I'll start with the academic goal. So our academic goal for this year was that 80% of students would reach their typical growth score on iReady reading. We focused on reading this year for several different reasons. Act 20 naturally has been just a leading drive in a lot of our PD work, a lot of our discussions at grade level team meetings. That has, like I said, the Cox Campus Professional Development is to help with that Act 20 implementation. Act 20 has brought us more screening data and diagnostic data than we've had the last couple of years, so we have so much more to track and watch progress on. We are in our second year implementation of My View, which also lent itself to focusing on reading and making sure that our work in that is improving our students and their performance. We have continued coaching in ELA through our teaching and learning strategists as our instructional coaches. And then, as we always have, we have regular scheduled data meetings. This year, we implemented data retreats as a whole staff. We did it back in the fall and then again in the winter, where grade level teams looked at their own data and shared out to each other their strengths, what they're seeing as areas for improvement, and then the steps they're going to take to do that. So we're trying to make it, again, an all-hands-on-deck process in involving everyone in that conversation, and how we all move our students forward, especially in everything, but especially as it relates to our progress in iReady. I just spoke a little bit about this, but what data do we have and how do we use it? The assessments on the bottom left-hand corner are specific to a lot of our progress monitoring work and our Act 20 work. Those data retreats was meant to be looking at universal tier 1 data, all of our students, and all of our students growing and learning, and how do we ensure that that is happening. And really bringing our school together as a team. We include everybody in those conversations. Every staff member is there at those meetings. We had every department share out too, including special ed, our speech and language. Everyone was sharing data that they're excited to share, and then steps that they were going to take from January on to work on other areas that need more growth. Every 6 to 8 weeks, we have data meetings where we look at progress monitoring data for our interventions. And when there's more screening data available, whether it's our iReady reports or now as we look into more of the Act 20 diagnostic scores, we meet to look to see at what do we need to adjust with interventions. Do we need to move students around to get more targeted in what they are working on? We find ways to enrich students during that time as well, primarily using our what we call power up time at Dunwoody, our all hands on deck of this is our 30-minute block. Each grade level has a different 30-minute block, and how do we support our students in that time? That includes our related arts teachers as well as being supports during that time as well. And then again, looking at that bottom quartile. On our school report card, that target group is what is reported out on as well. So we want to make sure we're looking at those students, the students in the bottom 25% of each grade level. How do we make sure they are growing just as fast as the 75% above that? Then we have personal reading plans that are being developed and carried out due to Act 20 and making sure that we're supporting those groups and those students. This is some iReady data using the visuals from NextPath, which is our data warehouse system that we started this year, broken down by grade level as far as their iReady reading growth. So the red is flat growth, the orange would be modest growth, yellow is typical growth, and this is as of January. So in yellow, we would expect, by January, we're expecting at least 50% towards their typical growth score. You're halfway through the year. We hope that students are growing at least, if not more, than halfway through a year's worth of growth. Then that like greenish blue, I'll call it the lighter blue, is the high average growth, and then the darker blue would be an excessive amount of growth. So we all looked at this as a BLT at grade level teams, continued in data meetings in tier 1, or our data retreats that I referenced. So of course, looking at the red, how do we make sure that those students that right now are showing flat growth, how do we make sure they begin to show growth? Since this data came in January, we've had 2 more rounds of data meetings, and our data retreats happened after this data, where we have started to look more at individual students. What do we need to do to, again, that bottom quartile, to get those in red and the orange moving? 4th grade specifically has talked more about fluency groups, looking at the needs of some of those 4th graders. How do we get fluency groups, book clubs to get those students moving? Some of that happens in power up time, and some of it is also happening just during tier 1 instruction. After a whole group instruction, then how do we meet the needs? A lot of our PLC work that we had today. So as it stands as of January, 70% of our students have made 50%, at least 50% growth. So lots has been done since this, and we look forward to seeing what the spring brings, with hopes that we meet that 80%, if not more. As Missy had mentioned, we are tracking our interventions and our personal reading plan progress. So right now, we have 29 Tier 2 literacy interventions. 28 are using UFly that you just saw today, and 1 is using a comprehension close reading intervention resource. And then the number of students receiving personal reading plans is 21. That's grades K through 3. So far, 5 of those students have met their goal. We continue to work on the exit criteria of a personal reading plan, but right now as it stands, 5 have met their goal. And then 12 of the students of those 29 have met their goal in their intervention as well. So students are growing and learning as they have more of that intensive intervention. I'm going to go through these quickly, but these are some of the trend lines that teachers love to see and look at, especially the yellow star and the green line trending upwards. These are some first graders, some second graders that have really benefited from our interventions. This is what we're looking at anytime we meet as a data meeting, looking at that intervention progress monitoring, and then third graders that have made some really exceptional growth throughout their time. Sure, the yellow star, so after they meet their goal three times, and it takes the median if you take the 3 scores and then looking at that median one, making sure that that is meeting the goal. And we have the goal set at the end of the year as well. So that yellow star, let me go to second grade. Some of them are cut off, but would be meeting the end of the year goal for that intervention. And the goal being the 25th percentile or higher. So we want students to be performing above the 25th percentile on each of these measures. I had a climate goal for our building this year. We had taken the panorama as a way to temperature check our school climate and get feedback from our teachers on leadership in our buildings. So my goal was to have at least 20 percentage point increases in these 3 questions as indicated on the panorama survey. We're moving to school perceptions, but we had talked as an ad council to make sure we capture in some way the same information. It may just be worded differently in school perceptions, but we're still looking at teacher and staff feedback on a plethora of stuff. These 3 questions were my personal goals as I looked at previous data on my leadership and what I wanted to focus on. So being clear in identifying goals for teachers and our building goals, being responsive to feedback, and then communicating important information. So I was hoping for at least a 20% point increase in that. Staff and teachers take a separate survey. So staff, I exceeded the 20, so this was up 46 percentage points, and teachers 38 percentage points. I won't go through each one, but past that goal, that was really with the help of my BLT. We looked at that data and how can we build this and how can we grow this? I was new to the school in my second year. How do we take this feedback and work to make it better? So I'm proud of that. That growth is we've had really good open and honest conversations and take this feedback to heart. Then our behavior and SEL data. Next path, we're always looking at our majors and minors through our PBIS systems. Right now, 91% of our students have 0 to 1 majors, which is really impressive, hoping for at least 80%, and we're at 91%. Then going down to 3.4%, only 11 students having more than 6 majors. We look at our connections survey. Jane had talked about that during her last update of surveying our students to make sure that they have a peer connection and an adult connection, and what do we do if they don't. We just talked about this recently in a staff meeting and made sure that we have plans and are looking to connect with all students, but specifically those that are currently indicating they don't have a peer or an adult connection. We use DESA as a survey as well to look at the different social emotional ranges or needs of our students. So 35% falling in a strength, 58% in typical, and then 7% in a needs range. Using our grade level meetings to look at those in the needs range and making sure that we have things in place for them to grow in that area, which leads me to different systems we have in place now. Ozaki Family Services is seeing 30 students in grades 1 through 4 and are participating in different small group lessons for a 6-week span of time. Social skills to emotional regulation. We have stress management groups. So supporting our students in that way. 17 students are currently participating on check-in, check-out. Miss Z, our school psychologist, is working. She has she has SEL groups servicing 21 students. She's also done 4 whole class interventions. So we talk about the needs of whole classes, and if we're seeing that a class in particular is really struggling with a certain social emotional skill, Miss Z will come into that class and provide a little bit more support of whole group SEL lessons. Then Miss Z is also doing some one-on-one counseling with 7 students. And comprehensive counseling through Miss Julie has 11 students that she comes to our building on Tuesdays to service. And then we have 2 students on Tier 3 behavior plans. Lastly, I'm going to outline our walkthrough process. We're in the middle of a cycle right now. So this was a goal of ours to do more of an extensive walkthrough cycle. When I say we, I'm talking our BLT. We talked about how do we incorporate past work that Dunwoody has done. They've done a lot of work prior to my time here on student engagement and increasing engagement. That lent itself really well with Cox Campus and the oral language piece of that. How do we get students talking more, having more student voice in the classroom? So our walkthrough, we started with a self-assessment. Teachers did their own assessment on where they land through a Cox Campus kind of baseline questionnaire that we used, and then we narrowed that data down to these 4 questions, which make up our walkthrough tool. We are going into classrooms. We have a system where each BLT member is in a grade level or a department each week, and we rotate, which will lend to close to 100 data points as we finish our cycle. So far, this is our data. Again, you can see that we are hitting every 4K, every grade level, related arts, special education, even our strategist team, getting in to see if student voice is balanced in the classroom. I'll get to that on the next slide, but this really, what content area is being taught? Is it whole group? Is it small group? And then are students using accountable talk stems to help with their classroom discussion? We want students talking with one another, sharing their ideas, asking each other questions, and being able to summarize what they're learning. So is it being observed? Do we see it, or is it not? And then where do we go from there? We're looking at if strong procedures are in place as more of a classroom management thing. I think sometimes we underestimate how often students need to be reminded of procedures. Is there a strong procedure in place to allow for turn and talks? Do students know what to do before, during, and after a turn and talk? Does that include verbal and visual reminders, or only is it quickly mentioned at the beginning of a turn and talk opportunity? We're looking at the balance of teacher talk and student talk. We want students talking more, and we've had a lot of great discussion when it comes to more direct instruction that our new literacy program has. How do we still build student engagement to allow that student voice? And then is the teacher modeling those accountable talking stems? Are there visuals in the classroom so students, when they go to talk to one another, do they have sentence stems that they can begin that conversation with? Sentence stems to agree with each other on, or sentence stems to disagree or politely disagree, and how do we help support that conversation? What are we doing with this data? Just recently we came together as a staff and we allowed time for teachers to plan, being more intentional in their lesson planning of creating those sentence stems, creating their turn and talk questions, and then talking with one another. What are you doing to help build those procedures? What visuals are you using? I had a great conversation with 4th grade during that time about math talk. How do we get our students talking about math and explaining their answers, or disagreeing with someone that got a different one? So allowing more collaborative work, and then as we look at this data towards the end of the year, how do we support next year in continuing this work? Any questions for me?
So I did have one question, and maybe because I was noting I didn't hear it, you may have addressed it. When we're looking at kids that don't feel like they have a peer or an adult that they can reach out to, and I think I remember you saying, you guys were talking about that, what would be something as an example that you guys kind of brainstormed, like we could help this student A reach out to student B or C or D? Do you know what I'm saying? Like helping the students reach out?
And have those connections. Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to peers, I think a lot of those social emotional groups that I talked about, those mentoring groups, are natural opportunities for students to work with one another, and teachers can then be more intentional in supporting those conversations and those partnerships. How do we get those students involved? What do their recesses look like? I mean, we look at their behavioral data. How do we build their social capacity if it's something like that, or how do we get students to be more receptive to them? We've had a lot of talk about even what a connection means. These surveys are done second, third, and fourth, having that conversation with kindergarten and first grade, like what a connection means and their understanding of a connection. We facilitate that survey in a different way, of more teacher-led. Because sometimes we're sitting there, man, I really thought I had a connection with that student, and they may not be internalizing it in that way. So we have a lot of that discussion. We've done different one-on-one check-ins or mentoring. Check in, check out. If they're not on that, how do we still start that student's day with a connection? A hello, how are you? Finding things they're interested in and relating to that. A lot of that happens at the grade level teams too. The teachers discuss that data and align it with other things, looking at DESA, looking at behavior data, their own observations, and triangulating that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Good. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bringing
Thank
us
you for your
all
time.
that data and information, and thank your staff for all the hard work that's happening there. And thanks for bringing your students again. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to our board committee updates. Brian, you are up first.
All right. Monday, April 14th, we held the Finance and HR Committee meeting. Everyone was present except for our fearless leader, so I had to pinch hit. So we had a referendum update, including information on the architect and construction manager selection process, timelines and recommendations for that, which we'll be seeing the results of that here tonight with Growth Design Group as the recommended architectural firm. And a couple of gentlemen from Growth were here in attendance and introduced themselves to the board. BJS Construction was the recommended construction manager, and Chris Coggins from BJS was in attendance, introduced himself to the board as well. We also had an update on the employee health insurance plan design changes for the 25-26 school year, resulting in a 0% increase to employee premiums. And then, as noted, the recommendation for the action on the architect and construction manager is here tonight, and the health insurance update was an informational item only. And then we adjourned at 6:10. Any questions regarding that? All right, thank you.
Kirsten?
All right, the curriculum committee met also on Monday, April 14th, and Sarah presented the staff development plan for August and the learning-based compensation options. Michael noted that a report on staff professional development plan and learning-based compensation model will be available tonight, and as an informational item only, and we adjourned at 6:52.
Stephanie?
Policy also met Monday night. We went over the draft of the 5,000 policies, which is student-related policies. We had some good discussion and requested some additional information and changes, which we'll discuss a little bit later tonight. We also revisited a couple policies in the 2000s and 4000s, which are program and health and safety. We got some good input and expert advice from Brian and Sarah as well for that. And we'll be discussing those later as well.
Thanks. Did any district-wide committees meet since our last meeting? I don't believe so. Okay, then we are going to move on to public comment. I have the list of people who signed up. I'll call them in order. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record. I will remind everyone that they do have 3 minutes. We will have a timer up, and we will cut you off at your 3-minute time. And then just a reminder that the board will not engage in any substantive discussion of your comments, and that you are responsible for your comments that you make. So our first one is Megan Jacoby.
I am at exactly 3 minutes, so. Megan Jacoby, PWSEA. Good evening. Tonight I want to begin by congratulating you on the successful passing of the referendum. It will be a true celebration when we open a new school and welcome new families and students into our community. However, I must also express the deep disappointment of our staff. Even though we have just passed a $59 million referendum, we still face a $1.2 million deficit being solved on the backs of our teachers. This includes issuing non-renewal notices to dedicated staff members and reducing full-time related arts positions. This financial situation could have been avoided with proper planning 3 years ago when the district first received ESSER funds. This funding was provided to K-12 schools under the American Rescue Plan to address the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was well known from the beginning that these funds would expire in 2025. Over the past 3 years, PWSEA repeatedly asked whether the district had a plan for funding once ESSER dollars ran out. No answer was ever provided by the district office administration. While some may point to declining enrollment and state underfunding as drivers of staffing cuts, the reality is that poor planning, misplaced priorities, and cutting the wrong corners have brought us to this immediate situation. I am deeply concerned that the district administration did not fully equip the school board with the information needed to anticipate and prevent this crisis. Consider overspending on administration. Union leadership has consistently raised concerns about administrative staffing, pointing out, for example, that TJ has more administrators than comparable middle schools. District administration also created additional positions that benefit office operations, but do not directly support the students in our classrooms every day. As for director salaries, while this evening again we were told they are comparable to those in other districts, it is rarely discussed how long those leaders have held their positions to justify those salaries. Again, incomplete information makes it harder for you, our board members, to make the tough but necessary decisions. When district administration only shares the information they choose to share, it limits the board's ability to serve its critical role as a check and balance. Maybe that's the way admin would prefer it, but it's not how good governance works, and it's not in the best interest of our students or our community. Our educators are asking for accountability from district leaders and from this board. Our students' greatest assets, their teachers, educational assistants, and support staff, are not the ones who created the financial issues we now face. When we invest in and protect these assets, we provide the greatest possible support and education for our students and their families. Teachers are the most impactful school factor when it comes to student achievement. I have stated consistently over the past 3 years that our teachers' working conditions are our students' learning conditions, and I stand by it again tonight. You have the opportunity this evening to begin to right this situation by reinstating these staff members to their positions. Thank you.
Elizabeth Allen, 334 North Crown Street here in Port. Tell me when to go. Okay, good evening. Tonight, I am here deeply upset, not just for myself, but for every taxpayer, teacher, parent, and most importantly, every child in our district. First, we were told the referendum was necessary because our student numbers were growing, and we trusted that, but it was a lie. We've learned the truth that enrollment has actually dropped, and valued teachers are being notified of non-renewals or reduced to part-time. This is a betrayal of not only our trust, but it's also not acceptable. We are a community that cares deeply about our schools and our educators and our children's futures. When you ask for our votes, we deserve honesty and transparency. Our children and our teachers are not just numbers on your spreadsheets. The heart of the issue is simple. We need more students to maintain teaching staff, and we have a budget to balance. The administration needs to lead by examples, just like we teach our kids. When administrators, the very leaders of our district, do not send their own children to our schools, what message does that send to the rest of us? What cuts are the administrators taking to help balance the budget? Are you still getting bonuses and even raises? There are administrators who are paid higher than the national average for their positions. Another issue I have are the large class sizes that push families away. Related art teachers are the heart of our elementary schools. Making them part-time will bring about a constant revolving door, and that will make our schools feel unstable and unfinished. When what families want and what children need is consistency, connection, and community. Historically, Port Washington-Saukville School District has worked to attract and retain high-quality educators. Why are you now making the exact decisions that will drive them away? Retirement benefit cuts is not how we honor the amazing teachers who have built the reputation of this district and served in our communities. This is not how we secure the future of our children, and this is not the way to fix the mistakes of this administration. Several district positions were created in recent years with funds that will be ending in 2025. Will these positions continue, and how will they be funded? Why were these not cut to balance the budget, and why are you going after the teachers? Amid all these cuts, we hear about a new home ec position at the high school. Where is the money for that coming from? Doesn't that show the district that you're spending money when we're saying we need to try to save money? We hear of talks of grants, but which grants and for exactly how much? Who is planning to pay for the ongoing costs that these classes will demand? This is not the year to be adding a program. We're not against growth and we're not against change, but we are against being left in the dark, losing quality staff, and decisions that do not promote a healthy environment for our students. We're against decisions being made without clear answers and full transparency. You have blindsided this community with how you're moving forward. Our children deserve schools that we can be proud of. Our teachers deserve support, not uncertainty. And our taxpayers deserve the truth. If you continue to run our district into the ground, there will be no district left. Thank you.
My name is Mary Cook. I live at 476 West Grand Avenue. I spent my entire teaching career here in Port Washington, 37 years, as did my husband Fran, his cousin Bob Cook, my son Joe Cook, and my daughter-in-law Lauren Cook. I have a vested interest in this community and in the educational system. It has come to my attention that in at least 3, perhaps more, senior teachers have received notices of reduced contract for next year. I do understand that as senior teachers, they are the most highly paid, as I'm sure you would expect of 20-plus year veteran teachers with advanced degrees. I'm also sure that you would agree that they've been exemplary teachers, or they would not have been renewed year after year. For whatever reason, the district is facing a huge deficit. I believe there have been some fiscally irresponsible decisions that have been made by this board, as well as some poor decisions in general, which have hit very close to home. I would ask you to reconsider placing the responsibility for mismanagement on the shoulders of our most veteran teachers. Thank you.
Joseph Birch, 301 South High Street. I hear your data on why people are leaving, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about how arts could be a magnet. My wife and I are both art educators, and we have a kindergartner at Dunwoody Elementary School. We love Dunwoody and could not be more happy with our experience so far with the Port Washington School District. My daughter has shown tremendous growth this year, and she never wants to miss a day of school, and we know it's because of the amazing people that surround her every day. School is fun, and that's how it should be. I'm here to express my concern for the decision to cut art, music, and physical education positions. That is not fun. We should not be cutting fun. Fun is an important way for young people to learn. For many kids, art, music, phy-ed are the reasons they go to school. It's what gets them there. It's what my daughter talks about most. It's the most important part of her day, and for good reason. Her specials teachers are professionals that are invested. The other day she told me about how the high school choir came to her school, and they sang fun songs for the entire school, and then at the end, the high school did a song with the third graders. She already can't wait to sing with the high school choir. Boy, was that slick. Whose idea was that? That was good. And it's not the first time the high school students have sung at her school. And her experience to perform at this beautiful performing arts center here at the high school was a very big deal to her. The incredible murals downtown. She knows her school helped make them, and she cannot wait to help with something like that too. The artwork in the public library is truly inspiring for anyone. My daughter wants to make art for the library someday, and the art projects that come home, you can tell, are thought-provoking. She is learning to think like a real artist. The projects are not cookie cutter. She is making important artistic decisions about her work, inspired by her teacher, who talks about art history and other cultures, and she is in love with Miss Stroll, and it makes me kind of jealous as an art teacher. And I am so happy that phy-ed class is not just competitive games. It's not just throwing a dodgeball out there like we're all kind of used to. She talks about stations and developing skills, and somehow they were running around and getting sweaty, learning about math and counting money. And that is so cool. These kinds of ideas come from teachers that are in it 100%, not 81%. And just like reading by third grade, if they don't have early exposure to this kind of stuff, it goes away. Look, I'm here to tell you that this doesn't happen everywhere. This place is truly special. We have a positive reputation for athletics and arts around here, and it all starts from the bottom up. You can see a tremendous amount of collaboration between highly skilled professionals that are all on the same page. The teachers we have now know what it takes to build programs that are successful, and the kids are all in. They want to be great, starting in kindergarten. And when kids apply to college for music, it means something if you are from Port Washington, Wisconsin. So that why are we trying to cut something that is working? My biggest concern is for our district to remain competitive and attract qualified teachers and retain good teachers. When you are asking teachers to take $10,000 to $20,000 pay cut, those teachers have to do its best for their families, and they can't help themselves but be consistently looking elsewhere.
I can adjourn the
No
meeting.
other surrounding schools have special teachers less than 100%. Look at Ozaukee, Mequon, Thiesville, Grafton, Cedarburg. All of them are at 100%, and that's where your teachers are going to go.
Thank you. Brittany Ward?
Brittany Ward, 138 Antoine Drive in Port Washington. In full transparency, I am also a music educator, and my son attends Lincoln Elementary here. This is his first year. And one of the things I love about Port Washington is how passionate they are about music and how great this music department is here. However, I will say, as a music educator myself, that there have been continued studies that just like in reading, it all starts up to the point of 8. Musical aptitude is reached max capacity by the point by 8 years old. And with that being said, when we cut our related arts positions, as Joseph was saying, down to part-time, it does lead to revolving doors. And I know this as a music educator myself because there are lots of positions out there, and I've worked those part-time positions. And as much as I would have loved to stay in those positions, I couldn't afford to stay there. And those kids deserved to have somebody who stayed.
because the relationships that these related arts teachers are able to form, it's not just in kindergarten, it's not just in second grade, it's kindergarten all the way through fourth grade. That's what they deserve. They don't deserve someone who's amazing for a year or two. They deserve somebody who's there. And I will say from experience, the same thing as Joseph. Here at Lincoln Elementary, I hear amazing things about all three of the related arts teachers. And I know that there's amazing things going on at the middle and the high school, but it has to start at the elementary. And so I'm just begging you to reconsider thinking about making sure that they are full-time and not cutting down not 9 related arts teachers. And I also worry about the competition of 81% versus 95%. Lincoln is the bottom. Are we going to get the lowest of that? That's not fair for our kids either. They shouldn't be competing to be at the higher school. And that's all that I wanted to say.
Thank all of you very much. Thank you. Oh, I am on. I would just, obviously the board can't respond to individual comments, but I would please encourage all of you who have a true interest in this to wait until after the agenda item for the update on the 25-26 budget, because I do believe that many of your concerns will be addressed during that portion of our meeting.
Is that tonight?
Yes, yes. And then we have consent agenda. That includes regular board meeting minutes from the 17th, from March 17th, special board meetings from 4/7 and 4/11, the reports, Human Resources Committee, Curriculum Committee, and Policy Committee. Does anyone have any questions on any of those items? I do have a question. In consent agenda, we do have a resignation from our payroll and benefits coordinator at our district office. Could you help us, what is the restructuring at the district office going to look like to accommodate that resignation?
It's a good question. Yes, Erin Moss, a valuable member of our district office team, has submitted her resignation. As a part of that process, we've committed to every resignation this year is taking a look, can that position be absorbed through attrition or through reassigning other duties? And so that is our vision for that position, that we'll be reassigning administrative staff at district office to that position and not hiring for that position specifically in restructuring, which results in approximately $100,000 in savings at district office alone through that cut. And so we are, just like every position, looking at that through the lens of attrition and building a system that is connected to that deficit.
I have one question regarding the resignations and such, and this is just picking up again on questions I've asked before. We're still conducting exit interviews with everybody that's leaving us as we can, and expecting a report kind of generalizing what the trends are with regards to that.
It's a great question. I continue to reach out to staff for those exit interviews and have conducted some of those. We also send out a survey, a Google survey through that process that is getting good traction. People are responding. That data will bring to our summer retreat. Excuse me. I also think it'll be impactful to look at other options. Both the Donovan Group and School Perceptions have shared district types of surveys that districts across the state are using for exit interviews that might be better received. It's from an outside source conducting that. I don't know if that's part of why someone leaving the district might not do an exit survey, is it's connected to our Google network. So we are looking at other opportunities for that. But we are reaching out. A limited amount are taking the opportunity to meet with me as an exit conference.
So the initial data that we'll see will be at our summer retreat then, and that's in?
July.
July.
Yep.
Right.
Looking at themes throughout the year on those resignations and or departures.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on consent agenda? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve consent agenda, but I'd like to pull 3.2 schedule of bills from consent agenda and approve the rest. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do a roll call, please, Heidi.
Aye.
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 And then I'll need a motion for 3.2, please.
I will move to approve Schedule of Bills 3.2.
I'll second.
Abstain?
Aye.
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 Great, and now we will move on to exciting new business with our consideration of their selection of our architectural firm for our referendum project.
We do have Mr. McGraw available if you want to come over and introduce yourself as we work through this presentation. Come on over to the table, please. As Mel pulls up the slides, really excited to welcome Growth Design as the recommendation from administration as an architect. Excited for the opportunity. I will speak to Mike's credentials because I know he won't, but his kids went to Saukville Elementary. And so that perspective of having a chance to build and design the new Saukville Elementary really came through in his presentation. So we are ecstatic and excited to bring this recommendation to the board as it relates to Growth Design for their architectural recommendation. While Mel pulls up the slides still, we'll give a chance to Mike to introduce himself.
This on?
Yeah, if the light is on, it's on.
We're good. Yeah, as Michael said, Mike McGraw, Growth Design Group. Been a community member for about 12 years. Growth Design Group's about little over 30 years old, and we've done K through 12 education most of those 30 years. And honored to be sitting here tonight in front of you all to be able to work and kind of live in the community that, you know, a school that'll hopefully be much longer or be around much longer than I am.
I'll pull it up.
We're having some technical difficulties.
I got it.
Maybe. Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, and so the couple of the slides that we just have, we did bring these forward to the committee as well. I'm not going to run through every single one of these dates, but if anybody's interested, we did go through a pretty extensive selection process, which included interviews, an RFP, which is a request for proposal. 2 architectural firms responded, Growth being one of them, and Bray. We did end up moving forward, and the committee for the architectural process chose Growth Design. So, just the selection process here. A little bit about the interviews themselves were about 45 minutes long, and they did consist of various scoring based on teen qualifications, which was high in, and project work plan, project fee and cost, and interview and presentation. So. With that, some of the key attributes that we as a committee felt Growth Design brought forward was their core team is local to the area with 26 plus years in K-12 design. I thought it was interesting, 92% of their clients are repeat clients, which says that they do good work and have obviously good working relationships with their clients. And 35% of all their employees live in Ozaukee County. So they are very familiar with the area, which is helpful when you are designing new buildings. They had a more competitive fee structure. And they have high-quality sub-engineers, such as Kapoor, Ambrose, MSA, and Capital. There's your picture. So you're here. No, we've already started working together with this entire team. It's been already a great experience, and I'm excited to continue moving forward with them. We have a couple pictures from them. And then just a little bit of breakdown on the architectural cost structure. So the way that it works is obviously it's a percentage of fee. This is how all the architects or typical architects respond back to RFPs for construction work. So their fee structure is listed here. It does go off of each project, and that's pretty common based on what type of work they're doing and which project they're working on. And these were lower than Bray. So they were the low out of the 2. So we appreciate that. Any questions on architect?
Can I just ask a clarifying question about the fee? So is that like each building is getting a different thing, right? So are each of those individually different projects, or is it the one big project with all of the work at different sites and Saukville Elementary that goes into the fee structure?
Do you want to, otherwise?
Yeah, I would say overall, it is one fee.
Okay.
It's the number if you were to add everything up, but we have to look at it, it's kind of a sliding scale in the architectural world of a value of construction cost and then the percentage of that value. So we look at it at the different spots.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Okay.
If there are no other questions from board members, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the selection of Growth Design Group as the architectural firm for the district's referendum project as presented.
Second.
And we'll take roll call. Heidi?
That was Kirsten?
Aye.
Well, Kirsten, were you on the second
Oh, yes.
motion? I'm sorry. Okay. And then for the roll call vote, I'm starting with Brian.
Aye.
Yvonne?
Aye.
Elisa?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Kirsten?
Aye.
And Stephanie?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you.
We look forward to our bright future with you. And then we'll move on to the construction manager.
You started that.
Yeah, in a similar fashion, we are excited to have VJS with us tonight, so we'll bring Chris over to talk through. And if you want to do a brief introduction to yourself, Chris?
Good evening, everybody. Chris Coggins, Project Executive, our K-12 market leader for VJS. VJS is a local firm located in southeast Wisconsin, been around for 78 years. In the slides that we'll show you in a minute, about 42% of our volume last year was in the K-12 market. The team that we presented to the team been working together since 2019 on mainly K-12 schools. So we understand schools, we understand working in schools, we understand working around active school sites, and safety is paramount with us. So we brought forth that team, and I think it was a good hit with the admin team.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, similar process, a little bit of a difference in dates, but RFP for construction manager went out. We did have 6 responses for the CM RFP, which is a lingo for construction manager, request for proposal. CM RFP is short for that. We had pre-proposal meetings, and then we did have the interviews. We called in the short list of 4 different CMs to be interviewed. And out of them, the committee recommended VJS. Similar selection process, interview was 45 minutes. You will see a slight difference in the scoring. As Chris has already alluded to, safety is a priority when it comes to construction, especially in the K-12 setting. So we wanted to make sure that that also had scoring allocated on the sheet. So team qualifications, project work plan, project fee, and cost. Some key attributes for VJS. Chris already kind of hit on some of these, but yeah, their team has been together 6+ years, which doesn't sound like quite a long time quite yet. But however, when you have that same core team working directly in K-12 education on these type of projects, it's actually extremely advantageous and allows us to be efficient with obviously not only the fee structure but also just the quality of work. So 42% of the volume is the K-12 market. They've done 24+ schools. They had a very competitive fee. They're right in the same ballpark as the other construction managers. Slight confession, construction managers operate their fee slightly different. So you'll see some areas where fee might be a little bit higher and others they might be a little bit lower. At the end of the day, VJS was low and they had a more experienced, qualified team members on board. So we're excited. This is their project team, so you get to see your picture on the screen now.
There you go.
We've already started working with them as well and had joint meetings, as you are aware, but that way the public knows as well that we are hitting the ground running. And the last, couple colorful pictures for you all. And then the fee structure, I know this is small. Really what it comes down to is they are also a fee structure component and they have different areas. And this is where, it might be 1.1%, 0.05%, 0.2% based on the various parts of the project. It is under the construction cost as a general, so that an all-encompassing project. So it wouldn't be broken down by necessarily building per se. It's all-encompassing. Questions?
Do any board members have questions about this recommendation? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the selection of VJS Construction Services as the construction manager for the district's referendum project as presented.
I will second.
Roll call, Heidi?
Roll call on that, starting with Stephanie.
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Yvonne?
Aye.
Elisa?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Kirsten?
Aye.
Motion passed.
And just for the board's information, I had the privilege of sitting in on both of these interviews, and I'm just was very impressed with our choices and can't wait to work together as a team. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
And now we will move on to the 25-26 budget update.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why it's not working. Okay, just want to make sure my mic's on. All right, so good evening. We're on to the financial update and information. Tonight we are going to go through, you're going to see a lot of duplicate slides to what was presented at the board level or the board committee level. We're going to take a little bit of a brief walk in the past. Nothing here should be new to anyone necessarily in this room. It is also available on our website, and then also our auditor, our financial auditor, who does an outside external look, also takes a look at all these numbers on an annual basis. Great, snapshot of 24-25, so not necessarily a snapshot per se, because we aren't done with the fiscal year, but up to this point. So if you recall, we actually started this year, and we are trending to have a balanced budget. And by balance, I mean we were about $3,000 on the plus going to the fund balance. That's a pretty balanced budget. So we are trending not to hit a deficit this year and or allow excess in that budget as of now. That is what we are trending at this point. Our revenues are listed there. They have not, obviously, this is just repetitive information to what you saw in June and then the final budget in October. So these are the same exact numbers that were presented to the board in October during our budget hearing. And that is Fund 10. Sorry. There you go. Sorry, delay. Fund 27, we are looking at a $7.2 million expenditure and revenues in Fund 27. And by revenues, I do mean we do include a transfer from Fund 10. So about anywhere between 4.3 and 4.7 on an annual basis is spent on a transfer from Fund 10, our general fund, to cover the expenses in our Fund 27, which is our special education fund. We are hoping, and the intent is that the state, obviously, we've heard a lot about various budgets in the state level. We're hoping that we see an increase in the percent that we receive back for those expenses in the 26-27 fiscal year. Sorry, 25, 26, 26, 27 fiscal year.
So much of our advocacy work, including Yvonne's and Stephanie's presentation of the joint finance, is really a push for a 60% reimbursement from the state as it relates to our special ed funding. Currently, we're reimbursed at 30%, so you can imagine doubling that would result in fewer dollars being transferred from Fund 10, where we pay teachers, where we pay curriculum. Having less dollars transferred from Fund 10 to Fund 27 would result in more spendable dollars in classrooms. And so as we've met with our legislators, as we've pushed the joint finance, that has been a push of having spendable dollars for schools, not through tax relief, but spendable dollars tied to that, and this is truly part of that. So we've pushed and said that is what our district needs, is essentially that 60% reimbursement for special education. Again, shout out to Yvonne and Stephanie for waiting 8 hours to present 2 minutes of our case on that topic.
And I should just clarify for those that do not know, Fund 27 is special education fund. Fund 10 is our operating fund. That is where the majority of the district dollars are spent, and that is the majority of where the revenue comes in. So that Fund 10 is called our operating budget. That is the majority of the funding for the district. We have other funds as well, but they are typically designated to a special area. So sometimes we get asked, why can't you just spend the funds you get from Fund 80? That is a very unique fund. We cannot allocate Fund 80 funds to a Fund 10. There's no transfer back and forth. The only thing we can do is offset Fund 80 expenditures through Fund 10, and that's pretty normal. If you have an overage in your food service account, Fund 50, then you would need to spend Fund $10. We do not at this time. Our property taxes, so again, review, general fund is at 12.1. Referendum debt service is 6.1. That is the money that is allocated only to spend down for debt that's taken out. So you cannot take that 6.1 and spend it on other things in the district. We also have 413 going on a community service fund. That is that Fund 80. So the community is able to, we are as a district able to charge this community service fund to obviously offset the cost for, say, having an outside group in the Performing Arts Center or our pool or the community events that we host here.
Total school levy, and then 2.89% increase from last year for this year. Again, I like to recapture and I like to put the dates in there. So it's because I think sometimes it triggers us to go, oh, that's right, we talked about that in this date. So I did list from June 10th, which is from the beginning of this fiscal year, because that's when the board approves that initial spending. It's not an official budget per se. It truly is allowing you as a district to spend money. We don't have final budget numbers until October, and that is already past when we start spending, which is July 1st. Our fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th, and we do not get our final budget until the dollar allocation to October 15th. So October goes from June 10th all the way to November 19th, where we include some information about what were the topics and the agenda items on each of those. So you can see a lot of it was on deficit spending, updated budget, declining enrollment. We know declining enrollment has been a thing over the last 3 years, and it's been even alluded to here tonight. However, some of the recent, even the real estate study that we received said that we're supposed to be increasing enrollment by now, and we have not, so. Ooh, wrong button. Other important dates, continuing on, you could see even through December, all the way up to the holidays and throughout the holidays, we have been working diligently on what we call those buckets. Those various buckets, and that's at 83 to 84% of what all of our funding goes towards. We needed to find a way to try to do some short-term and long-term planning for budgets for next year, and then obviously going forward. So what have we done already this year to try to minimize and also reduce that so we can get a balanced budget? Sarah actually has done a fantastic job with Matt in the office of going through all of our online subscription reviews. We have, I hate to say it, but we scrutinize building purchases, making sure that we're allocating the right dollars to the right things, limited purchases with departments and buildings. We are starting to bulk purchase now. This is not a thing of the past. So even our custodial supplies, and all the way from toilet paper to Kleenex, bulk purchasing is a little bit more cost effective, so we are doing that. And then anytime that we have a resignation or limited or a rehire or hiring, we are obviously reviewing that to see if we can absorb that through attrition, like we just talked about actually on the consent agenda. We have engaged a compensation committee, which we are reviewing our current pay scale, which was brought to the board already. And then we are reviewing post-retirement benefits, not actually to necessarily cut them, to expand them. And I know that sounds counter to what we are doing. However, expanding them at a lesser rate than what we are providing now to only 52 individuals in our entire district is actually going to hopefully retain staff for years to come. So the thought process is that we can offer them something. It won't be as grand. It's not going to be a $150,000 package that teachers get now, those 52 individuals that qualify for that plan, but all 204 staff now will qualify for post-retirement benefit. And then we also we heard loud and clear from individuals who thought they were getting that benefit, brought it to the compensation committee. So we are trying to find a way to grandfather the individuals who were closer to retirement through that post-retirement fund without increasing. This is not a cost add or cost savings per se in the next 5 years, but over the next 20 years, which again, long-range planning, this is going to be a cost savings for the district.
Can you tell me that number of staff members again that had absolutely no post-retirement benefit?
So 204, so it was 102, sorry, I can't do math, 202 individuals did not have any post-retirement benefits, and they will moving forward. Sorry, I'm not doing math.
52 staff members are grandfathered in, hired before 2011, and are eligible for a family benefit of up to $150,000 in retirement for 10 years up to. Those hired after 2011, 152 employees have nothing for retirement benefits. Our compensation committee spoke loud and clear that building something for all is a great way to attract and retain staff to give them an opportunity. So that is something we'll bring forward to in our May Finance Committee as it relates to our handbook changes.
And the post-retirement benefit, I just want to clarify that we are suggesting or will be recommending to the board, and I know this has been brought to the board committee as well, so this is not new news, will be a cost neutral. And then in the long run, over the next 20 years, it would be a cost savings.
For those that might not have been at a previous board meeting, Can you tell us who served on that compensation committee, the makeup of that compensation committee?
You want to take the lead on that?
Sure, yeah. So we reached out to staff members that were hired as early as this year, 0 years of experience, all the way to those staff members that have 35-plus years of experience, those members that are eligible for the retirement, all the way down to the staff members that are not eligible for the retirement. We did a survey, we looked at local comparables, local districts and what they're doing for compensation, and took feedback. Had multiple meetings to make that decision to move to a compensation system driven by PD that is learned here in our district, not necessarily a master's degree outside of our district.
Thanks.
As we talked about at the board for, well, I would say probably the betterment of the last 2 months, I think the easiest way to describe this is the breakdown of the largest expenses, and this is what I was just referring to, those buckets. So we have that bucket of salary, which encompasses a lot of different components. We have post-term benefits, which I just spoke about, total FTE in the district. We have the benefits that we offer employees, depending on their position in the district, hours of teaching/work, and types and amounts of leave. All 6 of these buckets have a cost to the district, and some of them are greater than others. But when we took a look at how to come forward and make a recommendation, we wanted to do, like we talked about, we wanted to do an audit of every single employee group and services. So there are services that we also, Robert Corp has actually done a fantastic job at making sure that we went to RFP for even lawn services. And we were able to reduce those significantly moving forward. So it's a shout out to the entire team, the entire district for finding ways. The union came forward and even they were ones, I think there was a joke about colored copies. Took a look at it. It's not a ton, but it is a cost savings, so we can limit the number of color copies we do, and we could even save $15,000 there. So it is going, and I don't put those in here because $15,000 compared to the $6.2 million for insurance benefits, they have a different weight on the system. So the ones with the stars next to them are ones that we are impacting this year somehow, some way, or they were the priority at this time. So we did take a look at salary, as we just mentioned, through that compensation committee. We looked at the current scale and adjusted it accordingly for future, again, centering around the PD that is around the district and allowing us to have increases based on that PD. And then we will take a look at, we brought the graph forward in the past board meetings. We are struggling, and we're not alone, to retain teachers after year 6. So we are looking to increase, obviously have these, what we're considering longevity, and the argument of longevity I understand is in the eye of the beholder, of whether that's longevity or not. But in schools, to somebody's point in the audience even tonight, we want to retain them. We need to make sure that we retain our teachers, so making sure that we give them that bump a little bit earlier in their career, not at the end of the career, is helpful for them, their families, and their lifestyle, hopefully earlier on. So post-term benefits, we talked about that. Total FTE, we did take a look at our teachers to student ratio. We were not quite balanced there. We did look at historic and future student enrollments, and then took a look at non-renewal options based on class size and also what was best for students. Our benefits, we did make this quite a large priority this year. We spent a lot of time, Aaron Moss, Carolyn Krekel, and Brooke Ulig, and I also have spent hours upon hours on calls talking about benefits, and we're going to give a little update on that in the next presentation. So we did not touch hours of teaching work prep, and we did not touch types and amounts of leave. That will remain the same.
May I ask a question? So we were able to negotiate with our staff, correct? And for their salary, right? Since 2010, we've been negotiating with our staff for their salaries, and we've made adjustments over the years regarding all of our different groups that we have.
Yeah, since Act 10, the collective bargaining agreement is that we can negotiate base salary as well as CPI, up to CPI, and we've been able to meet CPI, and we've been able to meet CPI the last 4 years as long as Mel has been here. We did not go back further, but that was in a previous conversation in negotiating with the union to negotiate up to that CPI.
So we've got a special relationship that we are working with the different groups, which that doesn't always happen in other school districts. We're working with our union.
Yep, I meet with the In Touch group monthly. We brought forth some concerns related to our budget to them in October, November, and they brought forth examples of ways that we could impact cost savings and some of the things that Mel has referenced. Those are things that we are doing, so yes.
So we've had a very good relationship since Act 10, that is special. I want that acknowledged, that we, as a school board, since 2010, really have taken into consideration retaining teachers and what's best for our students. That's all I'd like to say.
So again, back to that short and long-term planning, taking a look at the salary schedule adjustments. Again, this isn't an impact per se on the budget for this year, but it was something that allowed us to be sustainable in the future. And then it also allowed us to add in components based on PD and the needs of the district moving forward. Post-retirement benefits, I think we've touched base on that enough. Benefit focus, it is a 0% increase this year. If you recall the graph that I showed about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago now, we are a district that is about middle of the ground when it comes to the cost of our benefit, specifically health insurance. The difference with our district a little bit is we do have our employees, and that's all employees across the board pay the same amount, by the way. All employees pay a little bit more than our neighboring districts towards their premiums. So we tried very hard not to put an increase on that for any employee. So this year for 25-26, we will be recommending the 0% increase to premiums. Deductibles will remain the same with the exception of what the IRS mandates we do, which is for the high deductible plan. Reductions, we do have reductions in enrollment, and it sounds like we're a broken record here, but that is something that we have taken into consideration. We have class sizes. We did take a look at what it would look like. So we talk about those buckets. Each of those buckets does cost, again, varying components. Our salaries are the number one component, that 83 to 84%. The second are the benefits. So if we took a look and said, hey, let's only adjust benefits. Let's take a look at, ran the example. So HSA annual contribution from an employee is about $4,885 right now. If we had to go across the board, every employee would then pay about $7,000, if not more, because again, that's on the low end annually for an HSA account or for their health insurance. That is a significant increase. That's about 43% per employee.
So I think as we looked at these 6 key buckets, making sure that we impact small areas of each of them, this has been a lengthy process to get to the point where we are today and moving forward on a balanced budget. Also knowing that those impacts can be significant, especially as it relates to health insurance. So appreciate the business office team's work on maintaining that, and a 0% increase is significant. Last week when I met with superintendents from across the state, that's not what everyone's seeing. And so that's a shout out to our business department and the offerings and opportunities we're providing. It's also a shout out to our staff and being thoughtful on how and where and what they're doing related to health services, and a huge shout out to ANSE and their partnership around that. So, as we look at 25-26 preliminary budget, this is where we're starting to think about next year. We've talked a lot about staffing audits, and a number of questions have come forward since this presentation on April 7th. So we're bringing forth some more data to explain the why and the understanding around some of these numbers. This is a chart that we've shown over and over. This is a chart that reflects that we've been a declining enrollment district since 2005. This is not a problem that we've seen locally just the last few years. And you can also see the increase in FTE. I would speak to the fact that that increase in FTE is tied to a couple things. Certainly when we have staff or when we have students that are in need of behavior support, we need to add staff. Sarah spoke to that we added an AP at the middle school to support those behaviors in 2019. When the state expects more of us from a state perspective as it relates to literacy, we've added more staff to support literacy. Those in some cases for Act 20 is an unfunded state mandate. However, we still need to make sure we're meeting those needs. What we looked at is how can we impact that with the least amount of impact on student learning. So these are the trends. Our district is declining enrollment. We've seen a steady enrollment up, open enrollment in and out. Lately, since 2020, since COVID, we have been a district that have seen more students leave us than come to us. Our greatest competitors currently are Grafton and Cedarburg, where most of our students are leaving to go to. The other challenge that we're facing is that ESSER fund cliff. Many districts have been talking about a fiscal cliff. Some have tried to right that ship by going to an operating referendum. Operating referendums may be in our future, but first we have to right-size our budget and right-size our staffing to make sure we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. Other slides are related to staff revenue or general revenues. What it looked like in 2003 versus 2023 is just another reason to contact your local legislator. All of this coming forward to a belief that we have to save $1.26 million to have a balanced budget for next year. Mel has spoken to these topics. So when we thought about what changes that we could do in our district, we looked at 4 key areas from a staffing audit. We did not want to impact students and programming, and looking at class sizes is important. Those are all in the back of our mind, that students are what we all believe in and what we do every day. So connected to that was also student enrollment, looking at local comparables, how are districts around us that are taking our kids, being successful with their budget and their school report cards in a way that we can model our district after, as well as what are other districts that are similar size to us. So first and foremost, I'd like to share the slide that Sarah showed earlier. Again, this is connected to elementary alone, 4K through 4th grade. You can see the average class sizes in green for our district as it relates to students in 4K all the way through 4th grade. Currently, kindergarten has 16.8 students in their classroom, ranging from anywhere from 13 kids in some classrooms all the way to 22. And you can see that down the line to 4th grade, where we have class sizes of 17 to 24. One correction on 3rd grade, that number from 12 has gone to 13. This is a live document that is shared with our administrative assistants at all buildings, that as students come in, as students leave, they are changing this. And this is important data for us to make decisions for future years. You can see the expectations as we look at changing our total FTE in the elementary from 43 classroom teachers in 4K through 4th grade to 37, a 6-teacher cut at the elementary level of approximately 2 teachers at each building. You can see that what that does to class sizes. First and foremost, our 4K enrollment numbers and average are low. We continue to see less kids coming to us, and that is reflective in 4K. We're beginning to track that data. One strategy we had this year was asking 4K families to enroll earlier than they ever had. We had a 4K roundup night in January to hopefully encourage people so we have better numbers to predict the future. You can see our kindergarten numbers are up to 19.3 with ranges of 17 to 22. This is comparable to our neighbors of Grafton and Cedarburg. 1st grade class averages of 21.6, 19 to 25. That 25 is certainly a concern for me as a parent that will have a 1st grade teacher in classrooms, a child in 1st grade next year. 25 is a lot of kids. The challenge with that number is it is 49 students. There's 49 students at one of our buildings, so currently the expectation will be 24 and 25 moving into next year. We will continue to monitor that number, and if it increases, there may be need for more FTE in that building at that grade level. But based on the numbers and information we have now, that's the decision moving forward. We also know we're a declining enrollment district, that the trend would say that that number, according to trends, will actually go down, not go up. We'll continue to monitor that, but the challenge that we face is state statute says that we have to make staffing decisions in April with final non-renewals by May. You can see our 2nd grade numbers range from 16 kids per classroom to 24. 3rd grade, 17 to 24, and 4th grade, 18 to 22. Again, all of this relates to making these adjustments and being comparable to our districts around us results in 6 cuts at our elementary level. As it relates to those 6 cuts, I'd also like to talk about related arts. Related arts is directly correlated to the FTE of their students in their building. So if we see 6 cuts across their building as it relates to classroom teachers, that can and could result in changes to FTE. Before we get to that, I'd like to share just the trends of art, music, and Phi Ed teachers in our district going back to 2020 and 2021. And you can see in 2020 and 2021, our art and music teachers at Lincoln were 0.8, our Dunwoody teachers were 0.9, and Saukville was 0.8. Since then, we've seen some increases to full-time, including this last year where all of our art, music, and Phi Ed teachers were moved to full-time for the 24-25 school year. The reason for that decision was to allow for related arts teachers to support those students the same amount of minutes they had in 23 and 24, but truly to allow our classroom teachers at a grade level to have a common prep across the district. For example, all fourth grade teachers at Dunwoody, Lincoln, and Saukville all have prep from 9 to 9:45 every day. The intent of that, the ability for them to collaborate across the district. So you can see in the trends back to 23, 24, as well as 22 and 23, we've seen related arts numbers at 0.8 in art and music. So those projected changes for 25, 26, as has been outlined in some of the discussion tonight, is moving art and music at Lincoln back to 0.8, the numbers that it was in 23, 24. Increasing Dunwoody art to 0.91, which is a 0.1 increase from 23 to 24. And you can see that when we have students, when we have an increase in students, we have an increase in needs for teachers. The decision to move them to full-time in 24, 25 this school year may not have been fiscally responsible, and we're trying to right that ship now. We have created a different method to accomplish the common district grade level common planning block that increases teacher collaboration, related arts minutes, and in some cases provides more FTE for 23, more FTE than 23, 24. Students will receive the exact same amount of art, music, and Phy-Ed next year that they did this year, that they did in 23 and 24, 22 and 21. They will receive the same amount of art, music, and Phy-Ed instruction at the elementary level that they have for years in our district. The changes in what we looked at from local comparables is a number of years ago, Dr. Michael Rettig came through many districts in our area and created an ABC schedule that the intent of that schedule was to provide consistent art, music, and Phy-Ed instruction for all students while allowing classroom teachers as a grade level to have common planning at the elementary level. Those comparables, which I'll bring up in a second, relate to how many sections those teachers at the related arts level teach each day. Michael Rettig's belief was 45 minutes is a good amount of students or a good amount of time to teach art, music, and Phy-Ed on a daily basis on a rotating schedule. I bring up Grafton and Cedarburg because they use the exact same schedule that we do to accomplish this goal of common planning. Currently this year, 13 to 15 sections based on the building provide instruction every 3 days at 45 minutes per lesson. That's full-time in the Fort Washington-Saukville School District for related arts. In the Grafton School District, same schedule, those teachers teach 18 sections of instruction every 3 days at 45 minutes per lesson. Cedarburg is the exact same. What that shows is a difference that in our district, to be full-time as an art, music, and Phy-Ed teacher at the related arts level in elementary, you're teaching 585 to 675 minutes per 3-day schedule. That's an equivalent of 581 to 675 total hours per year. To be full-time in Grafton, you have to teach 810 minutes every 3 days. That's the equivalent of 805 hours. Cedarburg, 810 minutes. I've said a number of times, while we believe in small class sizes, it does not mean that the state is giving us more money. This is one example of how we can right size and be equivalent to our neighbors as it relates to FTE. So those projected changes, you can see right here, 0.8 as it relates to Lincoln, music, and art. It would be the same for PE. Art and music at Dunwoody would result in a 0.91 FTE, and SES and SES art and music as well as PE would result in a 0.88. The reason those numbers differ from 23, 24 is because we've added opportunities for our art, music, and Phy-Ed teachers to engage in small group instruction with students to increase their opportunities to check in with kids, as well as giving them opportunities to do extra related arts through a new system we're calling Related Arts Plus. Questions about elementary schedules as it relates to related arts?
Can I just ask you again, are any of our students receiving less arts, Phy-Ed, or music than they have in the past? Any 1 minute less?
In fact, with a new model, adding those small levels, our students will receive more art and music and Phy-Ed through what we're calling Related Arts Plus next year. Each student will get 3 more expanded throughout the year. Art classes, 3 more PE, 3 more music. That's not significant. It's 135 more minutes in art, music, and Phy-Ed next year, but they will receive the same, if not more.
Are you done?
No, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Can you go back to I just only see art and music on there?
Yep.
Okay.
PE for as long as we've been, as long as I could go back, has always been full-time.
Okay. And so when art and music were like Saukville in 23, 24, art and music were 80%, and Fayed was full-time. Is that extra difference, would that be the adaptive Fayed?
No, we have another adapted full-time teacher that goes from building to building to do adaptive Fayed.
So then, does anybody have an explanation for why in 23, 24, at the same building, specialists were different FTEs?
It'd be other duties as assigned. Our PE teachers were involved with other opportunities, recess support, a number of other things.
Okay.
Yep. They also would help out with, like what Elise was talking about, as Core Plus, taking on a group of students. Our art, music, and Fayed teachers have gone above and beyond to also learn about reading instruction, math instruction, taking small groups to assist. So they have certainly gone above and beyond to make that work for kids.
Okay, I was just looking at the discrepancies between the two in the same building.
It's a good question.
Could you also address some processes that we're implementing to anticipate these changes in enrollment going forward?
Yeah, so when I arrived, one of the questions I asked is, how do you track enrollment? How do you know how many students are in a classroom? How do you know if you're ready and need to hire another teacher when a student leaves? And there wasn't those systems truly in place as it relates to using a student system. I think we've seen significant change once we've added Infinite Campus, which has an ability to pull data, and I'm going to be able to show some of the high school data that we can pull from Infinite Campus. Power School did not have that ability. I think having a mindset about when we see increasing enrollment, we truly should see increasing staffing. When we see decreasing enrollment, we should be making small baby steps. And as I referenced, we've seen a declining enrollment in this district for a number of years, and that small baby step should have occurred during that time period, so it wouldn't feel like a huge cliff that we're falling off right now.
Just to address one of the comments about our new programming at the high school. I've heard that preliminary sign-up has been extremely successful for the new programming. Can you just talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, so one opportunity I had to meet with Rachel Beertzer, our high school principal, early on is what opportunities can we add to our district schedule to help kids, to encourage kids? What do our regional pathways need? And so we have added family consumer science at the high school. Getting it on the books was the first step. Based on that enrollment or that sign-up process, there is a need for over 1.0 full-time as it relates to art, family consumer science. So we're in the process of hiring that position. Simply put, that shows that students want to take that class, that there's a need, that there's connections to certifications, that that's life-ready opportunities for students. But that does then impact where are those kids coming? What are they not signing up for? And making sure that we offer what kids want is the first step, and this is about kids.
Would you say that area districts have that same opportunity for their students that we weren't providing for ours?
Yeah, I would say when I came here, I was surprised that there wasn't a family consumer science program. In my previous districts that I've been, they had offered that. And in some cases, again, our neighbors around us, sometimes more than 1.0 full-time FTE at the high school level.
So when we talk about not just preparing our kids to be college ready, but we prepare them to be career ready, that was a driving force in us adding that class and that opportunity for our high school students.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Nope,
I just
go
wanted
right
to ask, so related to the high school as well, it feels like this will become a cyclical every year. We're looking at our numbers. How many teachers do we need at this grade level? How many do we need for arts? Where do we need to shift at the high school based on enrollment? Is that correct? This isn't like a one-time?
No, this would be an annual discussion, and if we're not facing a massive $1.2 million deficit, the other discussions that you can have is that, you know, we have 2 staff members that are only needed at 0.8 or 0.9. What other duties can we get them to full-time? Because we truly know retaining staff is about full-time. And so in a situation where we're not looking at a deficit, can we add other duties to staff to get them to full-time? That would be the goal that I would want moving forward. But in the situation we're at right now, we're looking at those cuts. And so I am an elementary teacher, I am an elementary principal, and I understand the arts and art, music, and Fayed are my kids' favorite classes too. So what are ways that we can get them to full-time in the future? This staffing model right here of 0.8 across the board for art, music, and Fayed at Lincoln, 0.91 for art, music, and Fayed at Dunwoody, and 0.88 for art, music, and Fayed at Saukville represents a $96,000 savings as it relates to those dollars. That is a full-time teacher in another area. As I go back to those class sizes, making another cut at our elementary level simply can't happen. If we make another cut, these classes will go to over 25 or 26. And so making these small cuts will allow us to have at least attainable class sizes in looking at our local comparables of Grafton, Cedarburg, and those around us. So that $96,000 cut right now will allow us to keep these class sizes. And so the question would be, if we don't cut that, then what else?
Thank you.
Just one quick question, I guess, regarding those class sizes there. Obviously, that's kind of just a across the board, all three schools. Does that take into account any shifting of kids to different schools outside of their normal boundaries, let's say?
That's a great question. On May 15th is the deadline for parents to request attending a school outside of their attendance boundaries. And so currently we've got 5 or 6 parents that have requested for their children from Dunwoody to go to Lincoln, from Saukville to go to Dunwoody. Those decisions will be based on, can we right-size classrooms? Can we take some of those 25 students in that first grade classroom at Saukville and move them to Dunwoody based on a parent request? The other discussion that we're having at the end of this month, beginning May 1st, is open enrollment in. And so when other communities send their kids to us, we have the ability to place those students in classrooms where there is room. Certainly there will not be an open enrolled student placed in first grade at Saukville to take that number to 26 or 25. So open enrollment will allow us to fill those cups, bring in revenue, and bring those kids back, but we wouldn't use open enrollment to increase FTE. Having a student from another district come into our district impact our tax base for more FTE is not good use of taxpayer dollars.
All right, thank you.
I would just like to address something and ask my fellow board members a question, and that is, can any of you remember in any of your time on the board that we have been told that we have had increasing enrollment in, let's just say, the last 5 years? Have we been told that as a board, that we have increasing enrollment?
No.
That we've lied to the community about our enrollment? Okay, I just wanted to make sure my memory was correct. Are there any other questions?
I just, back to the elementary, because that's where I live. One of the things is, when you talked about like the shifting of students maybe from building to building, if we were to have, say, 3 third grades and then 3 fourth grades in one building, but only 2 second grades, when that bubble changes, are we going to shift teachers perhaps from third grade down to second grade to fourth grade, things like that?
That's certainly a challenge when you don't have the true 3-track school of 3 kindergarten, 3 first, 3 to second, that teachers are moving and teaching different grade levels from year to year. So that would be a part of the system to make sure that they have a job. And I would also hope that there's some consistency in the grade level they're teaching. I don't think it's good practice to hire a brand new teacher and say, hey, you're teaching first grade this year. And as that group of kids goes to second grade, you're teaching second grade next year. And as that group of kids moves to third grade, you're teaching third grade.
Right.
That's new curriculum, that's new learning. And so looking at systems to put that in place, that when we have those inconsistent numbers, to find ways to be consistent.
Okay.
I'd like to address some things that we looked at from a high school staffing plan, high school perspective. Really, this process is driven by enrollment of student course selection. So to Sarah's point, when we have a large number of students all of a sudden interested in family consumer science, what does this look like for our staffing plan? In the past, we also have allowed classrooms of less than 14 students at the high school. We did not do that. If there was not 14 students signed up for a class, we looked at cutting that class and encouraging kids to take different classes, maybe their second choice. As we just looked at elementary classes increasing by 24 to 25, seeing high school classrooms of 10, 8, and in some cases 6 students in a classroom, that's a challenge. But we also have to offer opportunities as it relates to AP. If there's only 6 kids, how can we make that work to offer opportunities for college and career readiness? So we started to also look at our FTE. Currently in the Fort Washington-Saukville School District, if you teach 5 of 8 hours, we have an 8-block period day. If you teach 5 of 8 courses, you are considered full-time. Hypothetically, what would that do if we change that expectation to teaching 6 of 8 courses to be full-time? Currently, the reality in Cedarburg and Grafton, our neighbors that we're comparing against, in order to be full-time in those districts, you have to be 6 of 8 at that high school level with no duties connected to that. So we started to look at that cost savings of what that can look like. We know this is a 2-year plan to go up to our high school and say, we're shifting our schedule, we're shifting everything to require you to teach 6 of 8. We know this is a discussion for future years, but we started to look at what this is. That could represent, by asking our high school staff to teach 6 of 8, a $446,000 savings for next year. And so while the burden of much of this FTE and balancing the budget is on elementary, we do have to look at every level. Currently, our middle school schedule creates a system that it's tough to find different ways to balance the budget there or to find FTE there. So I've asked Mr. DeBaker to start to look at that schedule as well as look at local comparables of that, what other districts are doing to balance their budget, have a 10-year fully funded maintenance plan, and a system that works for kids and families. So for the 25-26 school year, we could save $435,000 if we were to have moved from 5 of 8 to 6 of 8. For the 26-27, you can see that estimated savings as well.
Michael, can I just ask a question related to that? So you mentioned Cedarburg and Grafton, which are, as I know, are, how common is a 5 of 8 being full-time across the state or other schools our size?
I would say it's not common anymore. It's a change that many districts made after 2011. I will say some of that is connected to districts changing to a true block schedule where students are on a 4-block period day they have 4 periods of 80 to 90 minutes every day, and our teachers are teaching 3 of those 4 classes with teachers having 1 90-minute prep each day at the high school level. So that is another discussion that our high school is beginning to have on what that can look like. Is that a fit? Is that what we need to do in the Port Washington-Saukville School District for kids? And if that's the benefit, is that our next step to balancing our budget in the future? So we started to look at that. We now, as I referenced, have Infinite Campus that can pull data better than it ever has been pulled in our district to look at FTE. So just for example, the communications department, if you are teaching 5 of 8 classrooms, based on a request for all of those classes, you can see that there's a need for 6.5 FTE. These are the types of numbers that we're starting to look at. For 24-25, that 7 FTE is needed. So currently, could we have staff do an overload, and can we right-size staff that way? We're also looking at shifts in the roles of communication department to meet our students' request. If we move to 6 of 8 this year, that would result in the staffing needs of being 5.4 staff. Again, we are not looking at this, but this is an example of what we could do moving forward for a future budget. As it relates to 6 of 8 and what Grafton and Cedarburg is doing, we would be overstaffed by 1.6 FTE in the Port Washington High School. In the math department, we had 1 retirement and 1 resignation. As it relates to that process, we are not rehiring those positions and can absorb those positions through FTE or through attrition. You can see what that looks like for 24-25. We have a need of 7.6 and what that looks like for student requests. As it relates to if we were to move to 6 of 8, that would result in a 2.8 FTE overstaffing at our high school. Social Studies Department, in a similar fashion, based on staff request 5 of 8. For 24-25, the FTE needed was 7.0. For next year, 25-26, based on our students' requests and what they're taking at Port Washington High School, there's a need for 5.9 FTE. We've been able to, through retirement, make a shift to make sure that we are maintaining people and cutting positions, and so we have that as a process. If we were to go to 6 of 8 in the middle school or in the social studies department, we'd be overstaffed by 2.1 FTE. Science department, 0.5. For 24-25, we have 5.9 FTE in the science department. Based on request for 25-26, there's a need of 5.4 FTE staff. That would be 0.5 overstaffed. We are looking at ways that we can build that into our system and a shift in roles based on license. We did not lay anyone off in the high school science department, but instead looked at their license. Could they teach in another department and gain sections elsewhere? Science department for 25-26, if we were moved to 6 of 8, we'd be overstaffed by 1.4 FTE. Music department, 5 of 8. Currently for 24-25, we have 2 full-time staff. Based on requests for this year, we need 1 full-time staff member in music. As you think about our specialties as it relates to choir and band, it's nearly impossible to find someone that can do both. So how can we think differently? Limited edition will run with increased numbers of students possibility, looking at opportunities for private lessons by our music staff, and are there future plans to add additional duties? This is one of the greatest challenges that districts our size face, that how do you maintain outstanding music services when they're not offering orchestra, band, multiple opportunities. We are truly a music school and we're committed to this, but as it relates to requests and what our teachers are teaching, this is the need for FTE staff. As it relates to 25-26 staffing needs, based on requests, we would need 0.8 music teachers at the high school. Currently, we're at 2.0. These are all situations that we have to address in the future as we think about balanced budgets. The art department currently for 24-25, we have 2.5 FTE. As it relates to staff needs for next year, we have 2.6 FTE, so we're understaffed by 0.1. We took this as an opportunity to add to our art teachers at the elementary level to make them full-time. Some of our art teachers at the elementary level will travel to the high school to teach high school classes to be full-time. When we can do that with staff, we are attempting to do that every time we can. As it relates to art for a 6 of 8 possible schedule, 25-26 staff needs is 2.2. We'd be 0.3 overstaffed as it relates to that. The tech ed department, 24-25, we're 3.0 FTE. The needs for next year's based on request is 2.7. This is another example of how do you tell 3 teachers they're 0.9, they will absolutely go find another job. And so we're making those 3 teachers full-time, providing extra duties to provide support. But what will that look like if we move to 6 of 8? Those challenges would be 0.7. Simply put, when we don't have students, it makes it challenging to provide opportunities for kids and programming. These are all part of the foreshadowing of the district's decisions to move forward in the future.
So, quick comment on that one. The tech ed department, if you do notice, and you probably see some significant differences in the offerings that we are offering, there are a number of these classes, and if I just want to highlight the yellow, it means that there's 14 or less students in that class. So they wouldn't have enough students to run. I'm confident in talking to Rachel that the tech ed department will be 3.0 and they will remain 3.0 moving forward, because when you combine or take a second option from a student and combine them in one class, they would make that full, just like the music department as well. So I just want to make that, because we are trying to find ways to offer various offerings for our students while still maintaining a 1.0 FTE with benefits across the district.
Business department is one of our most popular departments. Currently, we're at 2.0 FTE. The staffing needs for 25-26 is 2.7, so our staff will be teaching overloads to maintain that and make sure all of those classes are offered for our students. Next year, we're still, of a 6 of 8, the 2 staff in that department are still overstaffed by 0.3 FTE. So our business department continues to be, understaffed next year, sorry. It still continues to be one of our most popular departments in course requests. So as we look at a high school summary, as we look at what Grafton and Cedarburg is doing to balance their budget and create a Fund 46 and a 10-year fully funded maintenance plan, is to being strategic on how they staff across the district. And the savings that we could put into Fund 46 for future planning is up to $446,000 if we were to move to a 6 of 8 schedule, similar to Grafton and Cedarburg. The other thing that I want to address is the local comparables as it relates to all district office staff and what we're doing here in Port Washington-Saukville and evaluating all of our positions. This is something that's important in every district and looking at our enrollment and what that means. So we are monitoring this, and as I referenced during the consent agenda, we are absorbing 1 staff member at district office and a cut of $100,000 at the district office based on a resignation and building that through attrition.
Michael, can you speak to the fact, is there any stipend that is true salaries there? There's no stipend or bonus. None of our administrators receive stipends or bonuses.
In our district.
In our district.
Correct.
So what you're seeing
And
is
what you see here are salaries only for other districts.
And I asked you to look back as far as you could look, as far as the records from the business department, because again, I wanted to make sure my memory was correct, that in your looking back, our administrators did not receive a higher salary increase than our teaching staff did.
As a totality for the group, in the last 4 years that I've been here, no, we've kept it the same CPI. So if and we go off of the teaching group, if the school year contracted group got 2.95%, the administrators got 2.95% as a group. And it's across the board. Same thing with non-coded. That does not mean, depending on how negotiations went, that every single teacher received a 2.95% increase. I want to make that very clear. It means that somebody might have even got a 1% and somebody else got a 6%. That's how negotiations work, depending on the salary schedule that we used to have. And going forward, this year, for example, going in 25-26, if somebody had leftover credits and under some guided guidance and working with the union, we're trying to balance and find out how much of that needs to go to those credits as we transfer over the new scale. But no, they have not received more or a higher CPI than the other groups.
Other questions?
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive amount of data for us to think about and moving forward how we are going to fund a maintenance plan that we have committed to our taxpayers. So we will move on to a report on the employee health insurance plan for the 25-26.
I'll pull up the slides.
Okay, so talking through it, as we pull up the slides, you're going to see some similarities to how we presented the budget update as well. We do have those dates. Those dates are important and critical because so much of what we have to do and plan for is nearly 6 to 8 months in advance. And it's really hard in the health insurance world sometimes because you have no idea what your claims are going to be and where you're going to end up. And this month varies from the previous month on how our claims came in. We are self-funded, which means we have it comes with its pros and it comes with its challenges. Pros, we have a little bit more say as to what that plan is and how we navigate that plan and how we set it up in the future. A little bit of the cons, it does take quite a bit more effort and work on our end, but we also then are self-funded and we pay for those claims. So under a fully insured plan, again, it could be a plus, it can be a minus, or an opportunity for fully insured companies to take on additional funding. What that means under fully insured is UMR comes to us, United Healthcare comes to us and says, you pay us $6.5 million and we'll insure everyone and this is the plan you get. And if we would have tracked that individually as a district and we said, well, we only spent $5 million worth of claims, and if we had self-funded ourselves, we would be saving the district $1.5 million. On the benefit side, if we ended up having a really bad claim year and our employees, had claims that equaled $7 million, we'd be saving ourselves $500,000. This is why we are self-funded, but with self-funded, we have what's called stop loss. Stop loss is what I consider, and the easiest way to say it is a backup insurance. It's saying, hey, if one person in our district goes over $75,000, this backup insurance will pick up the rest of these costs. So just want to give you a couple of those definitions. I'm doing mine. I didn't do it, I promise. So again, I'll talk it through. So there's a couple different areas when you're self-funded that you want to, obviously, and I keep using the word request for a proposal, right? We go and get proposals from various groups. There's not many in the industry anymore for employer groups. As you know, Humana has dropped and WA Trust has dropped. We are still with UMR, so there is no change to the provider. We are still with UMR. We will remain with UMR. What has changed is we are now joining what many other districts have done, which is a Nexus ACO. An ACO is a more local demographic provider that allows us to have a tiered system. The tiered 1 system incorporates and includes providers from Aurora, Children's Hospital, and Freighter. They would all fall under Tier 1, and they are local to, obviously, this area. We do have providers that are outside of Wisconsin or this area. You just have to double check and look on the website to see if they are part of the Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3. Tier 2 is Ascension. It does not mean that people can't go there. Our employees still can go there. They're just going to probably pay a little bit more. Ascension, historically, for us, has been more expensive, so this is why we would need to start doing that. Tier 3 are none of those providers. It would be a very unique special case that is not in our area. Say you're out on vacation or you're in Mexico, or I don't want to use Mexico, Texas, and they don't have a Tier 1 provider, that would fall under Tier 3. That doesn't mean the entire plan is under Tier 3, just that visit. The difference really comes into how much co-insurance is paid after you meet your deductible. So in a Tier 1 plan, the employee is 100% covered for those services after they meet the deductible. In a Tier 2 plan or services, if you met your deductible, you are on the hook for 20%. The district, obviously, 80% of that is covered by the employer, and then it goes down from there. Part of this request for proposal process, so that was UMR and Nexus ACO, we are anticipating a savings there. But again, we have to live in it for a year to see where our employees, our members are utilizing those services. The next area that we ended up going for proposal with is our pharmaceutical. Our pharmaceutical is changing. We don't anticipate a lot of changes, but the two large changes that we are making to our plan to be able to keep it at 0% increase is weight loss medication, only specific for weight loss only, is not being covered by the district any longer. If it's with a medical condition, another medical condition, it is covered. So that's a pretty large change for the district. It only impacts a few individuals in the district, but because the cost of the weight loss medication is so great, we do anticipate a significant savings from that on our pharmaceutical part of our medical plan. The other piece of it is we are encouraging and trying to educate our members on brand versus generic. So if they have a generic option, and one of the largest prescriptions that is on, and I know the board, and we've already presented this to a number of committees, we have one brand name medication that's quite consistently seen on our high cost claimants. They are coming out with a generic this year, so we will make sure that we educate members to utilize the generic because it's more cost effective for them and more cost effective for all the members in our district, which helps reduce health insurance and the cost of health insurance for everyone then. Third is we are looking to introduce a district on-site clinic. So we are very excited about this. That will start July 1st. That is for all members. That is for our employees. So by all members, that means our employees, their dependents, and that includes retirees, and then their dependents as well. So everybody will be able to utilize the clinic for a low-cost option. I think we use the analogy that if you are like me and you forget your kid's sports physical on an annual basis or biannual basis, you can run in there. It's the same day appointments, so it's pretty nice. With that, I should have brought the...
With the county on that? Do I remember?
Yep, so we are partnering with the Ozaki County. They have the clinic. Actually, they have been using it, I think, for 3 or 4 years now, maybe even longer. So the nurse practitioner that's there has been there the entire time. I've been told she's very nice, very friendly. And so it's over by Culver's. It's at the location in the Aurora. So instead of taking a left, you're gonna take a right. So a lot of the services that you go to your doctor for, even those ear infections, just general things and or blood work, you can go there. That allow flexibility with, possibly lunch hour, prep hour, before and after school, to be able to utilize the clinic. The other thing that's obviously being promoted, part of this plan is the teledoc. So virtual visits, they're a really low cost option, especially on the weekend. The clinic is open during the weekday, so then they have teledoc available on the weekends. And we're hoping in the future to be able to partner maybe possibly with Aurora again on some after hours options as well. Stop loss. That's the other one. Stop loss is the other proposals that we receive. This year, we anticipate a $312,000 savings on our stop loss, which is huge. So that stop loss, that's more of a fixed cost, but that's why you go to proposal. We did receive over, I think it was 9 proposals for stop loss, which is very healthy number for our district. And that allows us to say, hey, once somebody hits $75,000, you will cover the rest of that cost. And it is coming with what we call no lasers. And I think we talked last time about what does lasers mean. It means that nobody is, once in a while, somebody is a true high-cost claimant and they're a repetitive high-cost claimant. They'll put a laser out, and what that means is saying, we'll cover everybody under this amount, but we're taking this one person and saying they're going to go on their own higher plan, and we're going to charge the district even more for this one person because they're consistently, unfortunately, too high of a claimant. So,
Can you tell us how many people we have like that right now?
Approximately? We have 2 individuals.
Are they both retirees?
No. But, and that would be the repetitive. We have other high-cost claimants. We have 9 high-cost claimants that are over $75,000 right now.
And you are now, the business office is now having a good record of when people are reaching that maximum I'm talking retirees.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
We track both ends. We track the maximum for stop loss. We also track, and we are tracking, so for retirement, $150,000 max is what's available at this time for school year contracted. It is lower for hourly and then for non-coded. So we are tracking that. I am in the process of scheduling 9 to 10 different meetings with current retirees who will reach before they hit 65. So that is the problem, that it was the concern, and that's what also triggered us to start looking at post-retirement benefits, because if somebody wants to retire at age 55 or even 57 from the district and they don't want to work till 65, the $150,000 was not going to cover enough for them to get to age 65, so we have to take a look at what other options are available. We try to be very transparent about that now and work with retirees on that. If it means that the retiree puts a little bit more towards the insurance, we've been working out with them so they can get to age 65. That is the Medicare age, for anybody that's wondering. That's why you want to get to 65. I think that covered the presentation. I think there's slides in the board docs, which I could pull up, I guess. But what else is in there? It's all memory. There we go.
Are there any other questions from board members? If not, we will move on to the report on the staff development plan for August and the learning-based compensation options.
Let's turn it over to Sarah. If you can try to Vivian, I am not able to at this time, but I'm restarting, so try to Vivian and see if it works for you, Sarah.
We spent a lot of time talking about this in the committee, so I will just really briefly go over this.
Sarah, can you just let us know how many people were on the committee and who was made up of it, please?
Are you talking about the learning-based compensation committee? I'm going to throw that to Michael.
So learning-based compensation is truly tied to learning-based compensation is tied to the compensation committee. So as we referenced before, that's the group of staff that was 0 years of experience all the way through 35. We looked at different examples, looked at what were our priorities for a compensation system. We rated those in our first meeting in October and then determined which compensation models around us look like this, and then we tweaked it and made it our own.
Can you just remind us how many members of staff were served on that committee?
Yeah, so it was
32?
It was over 30, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so for the learning-based compensation model, basically educators complete up to 4 days of professional learning that are directly connected to district goals and the different curricular cycles that we will be on for the district. And when complete, they will also be aligned to the strategic plan, that work that we do. During the committee meeting, we went over just some examples of what the different opportunities will look like for staff at each of the levels and each of the subject areas. One of the things that we did point out was that because of kind of the short turnaround this year, it's going to be a little bit more limited on the number of options that will be offered. But the goal is for the future to get this information out really at least by mid-year, and for the teachers to have multiple options that they can choose from. But right now, as we are really working on establishing our framework for our curriculum, we want to really focus and hone in on that opportunity for everybody to sort of get on the same page, kind of build that framework, and then we'll be able to really have multiple options from there when that is established. So that will be a lot of our work this summer, as well as for the elementary, the onboarding of the new math curriculum, as well as our middle and high school math departments. Teachers will also, for elementary, right now it's looking to be about 1 just because of the onboarding of the math, but for other subject areas, They will have up to 2 days that they can work in their departments and their PLCs. And we've already, over the course of the last few PD days, been sort of establishing kind of that process for what we're looking for out of that curricular framework. That will also help us get into those curricular cycles that we've been talking about. But teams will have the opportunity to meet for an 8-hour, up to 2 days, 8-hour days, or they can work in 4-hour increments. They will meet on campus, and we will try to have an administrator or a teaching and learning strategist available to provide support if needed. Otherwise, teams will be able to sort of take a look at what are their next steps in that curricular cycle and what their plans will be for providing artifacts for what they're able to get done during that time. The hope is to get a lot of some of that core work done. That's really hard to do in small increments over the course of the year, so we can get a lot of that done during the summer. And so then PLC time during the year will be a little bit more targeted and be able to talk more about how the students are doing currently in their curriculum. Also, we'll be able to free up some time on those PD days because the bulk of the work will be done during the summer. Some considerations, we do have plans in place. For example, if staff members are on FMLA leave, we have different options and some flexibility with that. There are some departments that are allowed to do some job-specific training, especially for when we talk about our related arts and our electives where they have really specific things that they can work on that might be very different than the core teachers, that there's opportunities to do that. And in the future, we'll currently have it this summer, but in the future this will expand a lot where that will actually have staff members who will have areas of expertise that will be leading the facilitation of a lot of this work as well. And then we talked a little bit about any potentially newly hired staff will be invited to attend if they choose for a stipend, but obviously it won't be salary-based building at that time. So that information, we're just finalizing that this week, and we hope to get the bulk of that information out this week to staff. Most of the offerings that we're asking staff to take part in will be offered multiple times over the course of 3 weeks that Dr. McMahon had put out. So we threw the dates out a long time ago, but we'll have a little bit more of a schedule for how that's going to look. That will come out very soon. And that is really it for the learning-based compensation. And then at the committee meeting, we also talked a little bit through our August PD days. This week we have a full week of professional development before school started. And we talked through some of the work that we are going to be doing, as well as making sure that we're providing the trainings that need to be done, as well as providing teachers with time in their classrooms before their open houses so that they can get that done as well. And then one final thing, if teachers are not able to attend the learning-based compensation work in the summer, some of the things that we cover in the summer will be offered during those August PD days. It will just be kind of a shorter, quicker version of that. So they won't be missing out on information. There maybe won't be some work time with their teams or with other teams to get some of that work done. But staff will still have the opportunity to, in a shortened version, get that learning in place. So that's that. Any questions? Great. Thank you.
And now we will move on to the consideration of the administration's recommendation to approve an international trip request for the choir and the band students.
I do have Brian working on the Vivi. I apologize we're not able to put that up there, but I did see Dennis here. This is connected to the trip request for the music tour every other year. Next year, the proposed trip is to Italy. The dates being March 26th through April 3rd. Dennis and I had a conversation about what this could look like, knowing this does overlap beyond spring break, leaving before spring break. The conversation being things that we've talked about with the board in the past, that not to exceed 4 Port Washington-Saukville School District staff members. We do allow staff to ask off for personal time leading into spring break and leading into those based on building-based decisions to approve that. That was one conversation that I had with Mr. Gephardt about that. So we do believe that we can sustain up to 4 staff members being chaperones on this trip. Mr. Gephardt also appreciates when it's staff members on the trip. They know the kids, they know our policies, they know those rules. So that is something that we did adjust from 2 years ago from the Hawaii trip, or last year I should say. And like I said, Dennis is here to answer any questions, but this is certainly an opportunity. The fact that we can send 80 to 90 kids on a trip like this it speaks to the music in our district. And so I'm happy to answer questions, but I know Dennis will be able to answer them better.
I just want to know, I'm loud enough. I just want to know, are parents going to be able to shadow tour with this?
Yeah.
Excellent.
We'll have something up with that. Our goal is to have 80 to 90 students, and then if we don't meet that threshold, we'll offer those seats open to parents. And then we talk to the director that's putting this on the company about doing a shadow tour. The cost would depend on how many parents would want to go. Last time we did it to Italy, they had their own bus. And what they did was we did our tour, and then they came to our performances, stayed in different hotels, different places, and things like that. But they met up with us whenever we performed.
Okay. So I just have a question about the chaperones from the school. They'll be able to take their personal days if they're going as chaperones on this? Okay.
Yeah, I'll work with principals to make sure those are the first 4 that we approve.
Okay.
And looking at trends of district staff that requested time off leading into spring break, those 4 are well within what we've had in the past. And so as long as we approve those, asking our principals to make sure they're then scrutinizing, are we staffing our building leading up to spring break? To make sure our classrooms have teachers, although this is appealing for lots to go to Italy. What does that look like? So,
Thank you.
And we'll meet our guidelines of 1 chaperone per 10 kids.
And finally, just in case anybody had questions, this was, Danny, you shared multiple options with the students and their families and the boosters so that it wasn't just like this very significantly expensive tour that youngsters were going on. They had the option to, right, you shared other financially.
We conducted 3 surveys.
Yes.
One with just the parents, then one with just the students, and then one we sent to the parents and told the students, this is the one that's gonna count. You really wanna go, talk to your parents and have them fill it out. At the end, it's a family decision.
Okay.
And what we found out that the majority of students did want to take a larger international trip, but we did give the option for domestic trips as well.
And students have had the opportunity to do fundraising?
Yep, we do 2
Yep.
fundraisers a year, as well as our Music Boosters helps out. And then we're going to be posing it that if any parent wants to organize another fundraiser, they're free to do that. We put on 2.
Thank you.
And is the 4,000 estimate per student, is that before any fundraising? Or is that?
2 points.
Okay, so that's like the max amount.
That cost is because right now the dollar exchange, we don't know where that's gonna be, so we've made that high. And then we have an understanding that once we start purchasing things like airplane tickets, if the dollar, I think it was like 1.7. And right now it's 1.1 for the dollar exchange. So we inflated a little bit. Original price was about 36.
Okay.
When we did this in 2015, it was 35. So it was only $100 more to do that. So, yeah, it has the option to go down based on what the exchange rate is, but we didn't want to go and ask for parents to give more.
Great, thank you.
When I was reading through the information, I might have misunderstood, but I thought it said airplane tickets were a separate purchase by the individual, and I'm wondering how that will work with the chaperones.
No, airplane tickets are, we set a specific dollar amount because when we get the full price or the full amount of students, that's when we can purchase the airplane tickets. So we set it, I think it's a $1,200 cost for the airplane tickets. So it's in there already. It's just we can't lock in that price because we don't have the total number to get.
If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move, wait, did you type it out? I move to approve the high school choir and band students' spring 2026 trip to Italy as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. As always, thank you for providing those opportunities for our kids. Next, to consider the administration's recommendation to approve an overnight trip request for 7 high school forensic students.
So in alignment with actually new policy, so this is aligned to the 25-26 policy handbook, but bringing all overnight trips to the board for approval. This is a trip that is connected to a competition of a grand national championship connected to forensics. Rachel's here. Is Shelley here too? Shelley's here too. It's the 7 students, May 23rd through May 25th.
So the students that are going on this trip have achieved really highly in forensics. There you are. I'm looking all over for you.
They competed like the second weekend of March. Katie's here too.
There you are.
And
Sorry.
They qualified at that tournament. So 8 students in each event across the state. Well, actually, it's mostly the southern part of the state, but across the southern part of the state, 8 students in each event had the opportunity to qualify. And of the, I think there's 40 students that qualified, we have 7. So it's pretty impressive.
Yes. Okay, fantastic.
And I can speak on behalf of a parent who attended this domestically, I guess is the right way to say it, down south. I would say it was an amazing trip for our son, and he loved it, and kudos to you because you do a fantastic job.
And they've all fundraised the total amount right now. So everybody has this trip 100% paid for right now. So they've been fundraising since like mid-April, and they have all paid for this one. Now there's going to be another one that's going to be coming at you, but it's not for a couple weeks yet.
If there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the high school forensic students trip to Chicago, Illinois on May 23rd through the 25th, 2025, as presented.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we will move on to the first reading of board policies, the 5000s.
All right, so we did have pretty extensive discussion during our committee meeting on April 14th, but I did have a few follow-up questions that hopefully, Michael, you can answer based on your conversations with Richard, who is our rep from Neola, who provides the templates for all of these. So we had questions on 5136.01, which is technology resources and other electronic equipment. Some of the language felt pretty outdated. I think it still mentioned pager messages and PDAs in the classroom, which, it was a device, PDA. Richard mentioned that this is not necessary and we could eliminate the policy in its entirety. I was wondering if any board members were opposed to that.
Can you tell me the number one more time?
Yes.
5136.
5136.01.
Thank you. Page 30. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
In speaking with Richard, this is in many ways an outdated policy. A lot of policies related to other technology have come forward that we are adopting that cover this. So in conversations with Richard, there are districts that are eliminating this policy altogether.
Okay. So then I think we will also eliminate this policy in our final approval of it. In 5500, I know Sarah wasn't able to attend our meeting, but she had proposed some language to use at the beginning of the policy. And was I interpreting that correctly, Sarah, based on your notes, that you wanted to start the policy with the language, this policy is intended to establish clear expectations for classroom conduct in all district schools. The goal is to maintain a respectful, inclusive, and safe learning environment, conducive to student success and teacher effectiveness?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a conversation with Richard around that substitution?
Yes, and so that is one that did not get updated for this, but we did believe that that does not change the legal status of the state statute and federal statutes listed. We would still be covered. We would still be covered by Neola under our agreement and legally if someone were to challenge us on this policy if we added that language. So yes, we can add that language.
Okay. And then I think my last question was on 5517. I know we had made some updates to the staff version of this policy, 3362. And Richard mentioned our warranty kind of on the policy. Do we need to revisit 3362 at some point in time and discuss that and the similar changes that were made for 5517?
Yes, I do think bringing back 3362 as it relates to the changes we made, I guess the warranty or legal protection could be, jeopardized based on language we present or change.
Okay.
We do have a very robust student anti-harassment bullying policy that this board worked on and completed last year, and we combined it into one policy. Anti-harassment is federal law, bullying is state law, and hazing is criminal. In that both of them could fall within that. And so our current policy combines all of that, and the Neola attorneys believe that it should be separated.
Okay. If we separate them, can we use DPI's model language for the bullying policy instead of the one that Neola presented? Because I feel like, again, that language was outdated.
Yes.
And I think that was the one that made references to, like, an example of bullying, texting someone to drive up their bill, like in excess to drive up their bill.
Yep.
Okay.
We can make that adjustment to DPI model language for 551701.
Thank you.
551701.
Did anyone else have any questions, comments?
Thank you again to the entire policy committee for the hours and hours and hours that are being spent on updating our very neglected policy manual.
All right, I will make a motion coming out of committee to approve the first reading of Neola recommendations, 5,000 students, with the notes that we discussed.
We do not require a second, so we can go straight to voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion also carries. Board correspondence?
Oh, do you want me to? I'm sorry. So we have been getting these, we've been getting notices of annexation of land to, because of all of the purchasing of land, farmland. What happens is we are just keeping that notice, and we are, Heidi's tracking it for me. So that's the correspondence that we have there. We do have cards that are going around, so please make certain that you have seen and signed those as board members. And that is that. Do I need to?
Just as it relates to that land annexation petition, that's just that they have to do their process to make sure we're aware. It's also in the Ozaki Press, and those are all statutes that have to be followed to make sure it's posted correctly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for saying it in a much more professional way.
I
After
will
my bedtime.
then take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
I will second.
To close, do we need to say to close?
No, we're not going to. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are adjourned of our regular board meeting.